Okay, what's your over? What's your over? That's what we gotta do.
It's nice.
Oh, you've got one of those plates?
I must say 9:15. No, that was the manufacturer. I
That was a suggestion.
I like to think that we're not even gonna do it.
Anyway.
I understand, I did that again. My understanding is that they just went through the checklist. So they still have it.
So if I can make, does everybody have their microphone on? This is another reminder.
Yeah.
With that, we'll call the meeting to order. You can stand for the pledge, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, we have the roll call.
Commissioner Robbins. Absent. Commissioner Walter.
Here.
Commissioner Bonnet.
Present.
Commissioner Wessel.
Here.
Commissioner Campbell.
Here.
Commissioner Allgaier.
Here.
Chairman Yoder.
Here. All right, thank you. Next up, we got approval of board minutes. Looks like we got 5 sets of minutes to approve here. We have a motion, Mr. Bunny.
Yeah, I move that we approve the organizational session minutes from January 7th, 2025, closed session minutes from Tuesday, January 21st, 2025, executive session minutes from Tuesday, February 11th, 2025, special session minutes from Tuesday, February 11th, 2025, and the closed session minutes from February 11th, 2025.
All right, supported by Commissioner Wessel. Any discussion? Not all in favor of the minutes as presented, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Carried 6-0. All right, next up, we're under communications.
We have to do approval of the
Did I
agenda.
missed that somehow? I X'd off too quick. Speaking up too quick here. All right, we got a motion for the agenda.
I have one late addition I would like to add, and I know I sent to you earlier, is the Blue Cross Blue Shield renewal part 2. So,
Sorry, what was that?
item 7G.
7G.
Yes. Under action items.
Blue Cross Blue Shield renewal.
Which is BDS under. Notification list.
Yes, I would like to have number 6A2 removed from the consent agenda and placed down with 7B. Or actually it'd be 7B2.
Say that one more time, please.
6A2 from consent agenda, which is the VFW Little Finger Post.
Okay.
Move to action item 7B2. Which I think it's already on there,
Yeah, it is.
but so I just thought we leave it where that is and remove it just from the
Okay,
other.
now, what that one is, the commissioner is accepting the grant.
Right,
And
right, I
and the
know.
other one is accepting the agreement for them to implement the grant.
Right, but I'm just saying we'll move them for both of them down there.
But it's two different
It's
things.
well,
They're two different things.
it would have to be 1A then, IA, because I'd like to do that
You
before.
want to have the acceptance under the grant under A1.
Okay,
In other words, you want to be able to accept the grant separately. The other one is the agreement.
okay, I agree with you there.
Okay. Okay, I know what you're doing.
So where does it go?
On 7A1, the action items.
Yeah, we got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That down there.
Yes, that's what he wants. A1 or whatever.
All right,
I'd make a motion to accept the agenda as amended.
all right. Support by Commissioner Wessel, discussion?
That's second.
Yeah, Commissioner Wessel seconded. Yep. No discussion? Not, all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carried 6-0. All right, now we're up to communications.
Administrative update, all the updates are on the agenda. So we'll take it from here.
All right, that being said, Veterans Affairs, we have Michael Roof here. All right. Second time?
Okay. I haven't seen. Maybe he's running a little late, so we go in a second.
No. All right, so next up.
I would ask that if he comes in later, we allow him to talk. That'd be all right.
Yep.
I think he was here today.
All right, next up, we're then Drain Commission, Tim Onon.
Yeah, our engineer isn't here yet. He should be here in a minute, but he's not here yet. So I don't know if you wanna.
Want us to wait on that as well, and then you go through public comment and then see, we'll just keep going or something till he comes.
Okay, he should be here. Soon.
Go. All right. We'll keep moving on then. Next up, we have public comment then, 3 minutes, agenda specific. We have any public comment tonight? Lois?
Lois Bailey from the Village of Sutton's Bay. Concerning vehicle purchases, maybe you've already thought about this because Gwen was mentioning federal funding freezes last week's meeting. If you can delay your vehicle purchases, that may not be an essential item until you know. You can't hear me?
Mic on.
I don't know. How do you
It
turn
should
this?
have a red light.
No, the green light's up.
Oh,
Where do you find a green light?
I just noticed it in the back.
Okay.
Trying to help.
Anyway, maybe you're already thinking of this. Should vehicle purchases be slowed down until the trickle down of federal fundings freezes sort of settles out? So you know where we are in case there's something that's more essential that comes along that you need to have funds for as an emergency. So just a thought. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have any other public comment? Mr. Mikowski?
Good evening. We came across the e-packet and 20 pages of materials on a DSC agreement, and it winds up being on the agenda as a DSC agreement, but no one know what that means. If it doesn't say broadband, people would never understand what it's all about. So I went through all these documents and attending all these meetings, and we've looked at this as a $20 million project, not small potatoes, but it's a $20 million project. And it only is out to benefit a very small percentage of the people, but paid for all county taxpayers one way or the other. It's apparently an unnecessary costly project where we have a peculiar wisdom in the commission to do this in the first place, going back a couple of commissions. And that the private sector would have done it much better and much faster, we are quite sure. Some characteristics we see of this non-mandated project, it's for some reason never got on to last week's meeting. We understand why it wasn't on the vetting process at last week's executive meeting. It does not benefit a significant majority of the taxpayers, this project. It was a panicked rush project, the way we can understand, with no bid contracts, and also, we believe, a violation of board rules. It appears to have had poorly vetted consultants and contractors, poor performance and completion date standards, 2 years late and extra costs. County electors did not lawfully petition the county for this project. And there seems to be some kind of behind the scenes decision-making process by some self-appointed people on the commission. And we're not sure that all the commissioners are privy to all that's been going on. And then it seems that the DTR slush fund surplus money may be used to finance some of this stuff. So, and then another thing is, it's not mandated by Michigan county law, MCL 46.11. And then finally, we've kind of concluded that there's perhaps a chunk of incompetence and ineptness by perhaps the people that seem to be blessed with much more omnipotence and omniscience than the people who elected them. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Keith Ashley, Leland Township. Just a couple of comments on the Leland Dam disposal. I went through the packet online tonight, and I didn't see any information on that. So I hope when you get to that subject, you will be elaborating quite a bit on what that really means to us. So couldn't find anything on it. The other point I'd like to make is on the point broadband projects that are going on. They came past my house and did their excavations and put in the service, and the service is great. I'm real happy with it. The rates are really cheap. I'm happy with that. I've only had 2 outages in about 5 months, and that's not so bad. But they hire private contractors to do the construction and whatnot, and most of them seem to be from downstate. They have no part in the interest of this community. And they work in the right of way, which is their right, of course, but they leave a hell of a mess. And it took me several calls to finally get somebody to come out and restore the right of way as I would have expected it to be initially. In many cases, this is a grassy lawn area, and you know, they leave it as a place that bulldozers had a field day. So I think in looking through your point broadband package in here, there should be something in there that says they'll restore the right of way to the way they found it, or pretty darn close to it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Tim McCauley, Elmwood Township. I also like to make a comment on the point broadband and the cell tower. Point broadband, in my opinion, is over budget and behind schedule, has been for at least a year now. But when I was watching the Super Bowl, I think they ran an ad, T-Mobile ran a commercial, said that they can provide service, roughly about $120, I believe. And it gets this data link from Starlink. So they have the capability of doing both phone service and internet. Starlink actually set up a system when North Carolina got pummeled by the hurricane this year, and kept a lot of those people in touch and communication. So they're a very capable entity. The point being is explore alternatives. Point broadband. I mean, if I was an individual looking for internet or phone service right now, I might have to really check out this T-Mobile system. And it's probably much more capable than what we're seeing being implemented in our county right at the moment. Thank you.
Dwight?
Good evening. I'm Jim White, resident of Suttons Bay and also the chairman of the Republican Party of Leelanau County. So good evening, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen of the county. I've addressed this board in the past on the subject of wasteful spending and mismanagement of county resources. Unfortunately, I'm here to do that again this evening because a number of things have come to my attention that beg for explanation. As you know, in my past statements and during my campaign for county commissioner, I made it very clear that I do not support increasing the spending in this county year after year. In fact, I think we should be looking to reduce spending where we possibly can. One of the ways we can do that is to confine the actions of the board to those things that are specifically outlined as board responsibilities in the county by charter or bylaws. Accordingly, I spoke up quite strongly over the Point Broadband project and the expenditure of money on the Energy Futures Task Force, the government building solar panel project, the expenditure of nearly $1 million to find a chief financial officer, among other items. Because of the inattention and frankly lack of competence, as well as failures of leadership of the previous board, our county has been spun into a financial debacle. We had a $5 million deficit last year, is my understanding, and fortunately, there is a difference between a debt and a deficit. So we are currently carrying little to no debt, but as spending continues to accelerate as it has for the past several years, we will no longer be able to say that. This county will be in debt. In order to address that problem, this board is going to have to make some hard financial choices, and not all of them will be popular. However, the choices to be made will be far easier if this board confines itself to those accountabilities that are designated as their responsibility by the county bylaws. Specifically, the board is tasked with hiring the county administrator, developing and passing a budget, communicating that to the constituents, overseeing the administration of it, and communicating with the county administrator to make sure the past budget is being administered efficiently and properly. That is it. It is not the job of county commissioners to create new child care programs, to determine how to solve the affordable housing crisis, to ensure that everyone in the county has broadband access, to push green energy boondoggles, or to approve and manage any number of other projects which may appear to be laudable or beneficial, but are outside the scope of this board's responsibility, authority, and frankly, in some cases, beyond their competence. Like most Americans, I have been watching with amusement and amazement as the DOJ at the federal level ransacks the records of federal agencies and finds nothing but waste, fraud, abuse, compounded on waste, fraud, and abuse. At this point, there's potentially somewhere between 2 and 5 trillion of that went out with no accountability. $5 trillion of that went out with no accountability or justification. But even as I watched that debacle unfold, I realized that previous boards have put this county on a similar path financially. The difference is the federal government can print its own money. Leelanau County cannot. If this board fails to rein in government spending, we are headed for a fiscal disaster. We are standing on the bridge of the Titanic, looking at a mountain of ice in our path. The real Titanic continued on that course full speed ahead till the very last second, at which time it tried to turn. But
Mr. White, your 3 minutes are up.
Oh, that's too bad. I guess I have to wait to the
Thank you. Any other public comments? Yes, Mrs. Dawkins.
Kathy Dawkins, Leland Township, regarding the fiscal responsibility of this county. One of the main reasons to have government is to provide safety nets for our constituents, our community. And I guess I haven't heard of any big fiscal problems, deficits with this county, other than the one that 4 commissioners voted on many years ago, and I'm not going to get into that fiasco. Other than that, I think this board has done really well. I want us to continue the things that the electors have voted for, the millages such as early childhood and senior services. Please do not do a scorch earth program like our federal government is doing right now. You have been very fiscally responsible, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? All right. Thank you. All right, do you have your partner, Tim, or no? If not, we'll just keep moving, I guess.
Yeah, he should be here any minute.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, next up, we have commissioner comments. Any commissioner comments? Okay. All right, next up, we're to the consent agenda items, and I'll just read a statement here. Purpose of the consent agenda is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one motion without discussion. Any commissioner may ask that any item on the consent agenda be removed and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will automatically be respected and will not need a second. Okay, do you have any commissioners? No. Mr. Wassel?
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second. All right, Commissioner Bunnick. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Oh, that's right, we gotta do a roll call on this, never mind.
Commissioner Wessel. We're doing a roll call.
Yes.
Chairman Yoder,
Yes.
Commissioner Allgaier,
Yes.
Commissioner Bonnet,
Yes.
Commissioner Campbell,
Yes.
Commissioner Robbins,
Yes.
Commissioner Walter,
Yes.
7-0.
All right, thank you. Next up, we are at item number 1 for action items, human resources, IT technician position approval.
Last week, you did approve this on a 7-0 vote to move forward with this particular request, whereby we would bring forth a part-time position of no more than 60, no more than 24 hours a week of an IT technical position. Because last week we had it in front of you that it's going to be a non-union position. Well, found out that I was just dead wrong. So, so thank you, Mr. Bunny, for bringing it up. So what we have in front of you is the same position, but the only thing that's changed is that you still need to approve the job description in the IT department brief employee master list. But the only other difference is that we will have to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the Teamsters. On your desk is what we had in the packet was a draft of that agreement. Legal counsel did bring it back to us yesterday, and what you have on your desk is the final version of that intergovernmental agreement. So that's why we moved it down to the action item. So.
I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve the IT technician job description, the addition of the IT technician position to the IT department, brief employee master list, and the letter of understanding between Leelanau County and Teamster State County and Municipal Workers Local 214 is presented.
Second. Supported by Commissioner Rollins. Discussion. All right.
I was correct. I believe this used to be a position, a part-time position, and then there was.
It used to be a full-time position some time ago.
Okay.
And it was under the union then too, so.
In one of the descriptions, it says that the help provided sometimes extends to township staff. Is that
every so often, we get things that, from what I understand, I'm sorry she's not here. But every so often we do, because of our computers and stuff, the township relies upon us to help them get some of their information. So occasionally we will help them, mainly over the phone. We don't go out and work on their computers. But we do on the interchanging of getting information into our webpage for them, so.
So we don't go, oh, I see the connection with the webpage. I understand.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All right, not all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried 7-0. Next up, we have Drain Commission. Property purchase.
Yeah, last week, you did approve moving forward with the purchasing of a computer for the Drain Commission. And so, because it wasn't a unanimous vote, it's back in front of you for your consideration. Yes.
I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners purchase a printer copier from Netlink for the Drain Commissioner in the amount of $5,199, with funds to come from the duplicating fund account 645-000-000-97000.
I will support it so we can discuss it.
Discussion.
We had talked last week about the possibility of sharing printers. I understand there's some large size printers in the building. And I don't know if we've explored all the options.
Walter?
Same thoughts that I had. I know we had the capability in the, well, I shouldn't say I know we have. In the past, we had the capability with the planning department on large size. And in some other departments, and the commissioner for 12 years, so I could be wrong now. But and we are all wired together. I don't know why we couldn't print on another printer. Well, we had to spend $5,000 for a duplicate printer. If we had the ability to print, you know, if you're not gonna print 30 documents a day or probably 30 documents a month, that you can't share with another work site and go out and pick up your copies. We've all done that in other offices.
Right. So, I mean, do you understand that there's a printer already downstairs that I'm using,
Right.
but it's not my printer?
Well,
So why don't you figure out a way to make that work?
well, that's what I think that's what I just said. I mean, we have printers in the building all over the place. I don't think we spend $5,000 on another printer.
Is there a reason you can't use that one? Did they tell you can't? or
Oh,
something?
I am using it, but it's Buzz Long's printer.
Right.
So has he said anything? I'm sorry.
Commissioner Robbins and then go.
Okay, since talked to a few people, it's not that I'm against getting you a printer, it's just it's open public comment. Why spend money if we don't need to? I talked to Rob. Rob said that Steve used his computer maybe 2 times a year. And they have the same printer. He said they spend about $5,100, $5,600. I'm also hearing rumbles since last Tuesday that you may be doing some of the stuff that Steve did with Buzz. So I'm like, well, why aren't we sharing? Why can't we just go back to the old system that we had with Steve? And if you need a small printer, I can understand for your office, but as far as the big one, spending $5,100, when we can share as neighbors, get along, I think that's the road to go. And if down the road you get busy and you need this, then you come back and we'll discuss it.
Okay, well, I guess the point is that Buzz needs to be part of this conversation. I mean, you know.
I think you as his neighbor working in the same office and gonna probably be doing work with him, should have had this discussion before tonight, before you showed up.
I did have that discussion with him, okay, but he was under the impression that the drain commissioner, you know, was going to have his own printer. I guess, you know, there was probably some miscommunication, I guess, you know, but, you know, he's expecting that the drain commissioner was going to get a printer, you know, and actually he said to me the other day, well, if you're getting a new printer here, because his printer doesn't print in color. Okay, so if you're getting a printer that prints in color, then he was going to have a discussion about some kind of an arrangement where he would get rid of his printer, you know, and then use the new one.
So we could maybe at some point share the cost with it.
Right, that's really what he was getting at, is that since this new printer can do color, he would just, you know, have Netlink take his printer back or whatever, and then have some kind of an agreement, you know, in using the new printer.
How often do you just do black and white 8x11s versus big color things?
Just really depends on what the project is, what I'm looking at. I mean, it's, I mean, I'll get some drawings from the engineer right here. Engineer just joined us here. I get 24 by 36 drawings that are reduced down to 11 by 17. Okay, and print those. So I can review them.
How often?
Not that often, but it does happen, you know, especially right now, we got 4 drainage districts that are active. And there's going to be engineering, there will be engineering drawings being produced that I need to review.
So how often do you think you'd be printing 8x11s?
11 by 17s?
No, just regular.
Well, yeah,
How often will you be doing that?
but the only time I really print 8.5 by 11s is if I want to have a file, like say emails that we get and I put into a file. So I have a hard copy.
So do we have any extra small printers around, and then you could just do?
But I don't need that.
Okay.
I don't need that.
I kind of agree that if you're not doing it very often.
No, the one that I would use more is the capability of doing 11 by 17. When I want to review his drawings.
Should I just ask, I know there's a division, and this is my own ignorance, excuse me, you know, with the conservation department. It runs a little different than everything else, but that printer is owned by Leelanau County that he uses. It's not, okay, so there is a wall there.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's probably where we're missing the connection, is that actually the conservation district has the authority to say, no, this is ours, you can't use it. That's not doing that.
Right.
But sometimes you gotta know where that authority falls before you,
Right.
so that you're on along the same page. Thank you.
Commissioner Bunny?
There's a one down there, print, what is it, 11?
Yeah, 11 by 17, but it's black and white.
Right.
Yeah,
So-
there's a
so-
difference. There's a big
So-
difference when,
You know, Buzz wants the colored one just as well. as
yeah,
you.
yeah,
So we should really have this conversation with him as well.
sure. And like I say, he's willing to do some kind of an agreement.
Yeah, and you can use his,
You know.
until we get that settled.
Oh, yeah, that's
All right.
fine. Yeah, there's, it's not like an emergency.
Good,
You
good.
know,
I mean, I guess that's what we're looking at, so.
So we don't want to do the $5,000 expenditure today until we can have that conversation.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
Why don't you refer this to your March meetings, please?
yes. They will.
put a motion on the table to refer to
All right.
your March executive session.
Well, we have a motion to table now.
Four fifty.
You can withdraw it.
Because they would withdraw your motion.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, then I put a motion to move this to March and
Refer to the March executive session.
refer to the March executive session.
Second, I mean, you, any
Yes,
commissioner can put it on.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be second. I said, any commissioner can put something on the agenda. It doesn't have to be seconded or voted on. You know, and that's up to the.
Right, but I think what.
All I'm doing is referring this discussion
Right.
to the next meeting, so it's on your agenda, you're referring it for first, so you don't have to add it to it. I'm just gonna pick it up and I'll bring back a report.
All right, so we go to just doing it that way instead of a official motion, we'll just, on the
Yeah.
understanding that it'll be on the March.
And
meeting.
I'll further the discussion with Buzz
But me,
Yeah, maybe he can come. with
and
that.
you.
because I understood that this was necessary to do to operate his office.
Right.
It's the first time I've heard that, Buzz, and everybody was happy to share it, so. Thank you very much.
Awesome. All right, next we have the truck purchase.
Okay, last week, I'm not advising you to purchase a truck or anything like that. Just wanted to bring you up to date that one of the questions was if we could find a cheaper truck. And on your desk here is that we did go look. And you'll see highlighted 3 particular pickup trucks that you can purchase through MI deal, which considers to be a little bit less, we'll still have to buy the tires. Just wanted to make you aware of it. It's an American-made vehicle. That's the only type of vehicles that MI deals with. Just giving you this as the information. The other couple of points that I did put in the EDS for you is that the van, which the question was asked if it's 4-wheel drive, and I have no idea, but I'll find out. But it won't be available until late April or early May at the earliest. Any other vehicles probably won't be here until late summer. So I'm just giving you the information. There you go, how you want to do it. The other option is that continue to use his own vehicle, we'll just reimburse for the mileage if that's something. If you need something on the side of your vehicle so you can cover it up like a metal thing to say, here, you're the drain commissioner at this moment, we can afford to buy you that. This is where we are, so. I wanted to bring you back the information for your all's consideration. So I'm not making a recommendation to move on anything. It's just where we are.
So there are no other, there's nothing else in the fleet right now.
There's nothing else in the fleet right now that I would even allow my children to be in.
Not sure what that means.
That means, no, I'm not gonna let my kids, I'm not gonna let him. And what's coming down the pike is even worse. And when I say a sheriff's vehicle, there's gonna be some sheriff's vehicles that they'll be taken out of their fleet and moved in, and the newer vehicles moved in. But I don't know what condition they're in, and I can't tell you for sure when they will be. So,
Our administrator has just lowered the price when you send those out for auction. It's later this year.
the animal control truck, we'll get lucky if we give it away. From what I understand.
And I did just find out with that list there, about an hour ago, I got a call from MI Deal. And that Genesee County Road Commission ordered five pickups and they only took delivery on 4. And he said that he's got this 5th one that he was willing to cut a deal on, but I haven't seen the numbers yet. So it'll be added to that list. Yeah.
Well, then how can we decide if there's a deal in sight?
Well, no, I'm just saying it's gonna be the number. I told him what the numbers our budgeted number, and he said that it would fall, those ones that are highlighted there, it would fall into those, into that category. He just didn't have an exact number yet, but it would be like in the 37 to 38, you know.
Mr. Binder,
Yeah, I would make a motion that we purchase a truck from Sarah, Traverse City, along with the truck decals purchased from Simplicity and the placement of decals by Troz Brothers of Cedar in an amount not to exceed $46,320 with funds to come from the motor pool fund account and ending in 970000.
Or
Commissioner Walter, discussion.
There's a truck here that says it's $32,000. Why spend 46?
I didn't say spend 46. I said not to exceed.
Okay.
Wait. I like, what are you proceeding with, Commissioner Bennett? The motion you just made was what was turned down last week.
No, it wasn't. This is different because this is not to exceed. And it includes the, the Troz Brothers and the Simplicities signs to go on it.
I know that.
And
That was
so
last
it
week.
could be the
But you're
32,000. It
You're
could be
you're advising me to move forward with buying a vehicle from Sarah.
Well, so do you want to take Sarah out of it?
Well, because,
Okay, so I would say,
well, Tom, where do I buy the truck from?
well, I think that's what he had planned was from Sarah. And I think that's who he's dealing with.
No,
Sarah?
no,
No,
no, MIDeal is who I was just talking
Oh,
to
okay.
about.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
I would ask, in the motion, then I would remove from Sarah, that he just purchase it along with the decals, and the Troz Brothers doing the placement and not to exceed $46,320.
We just gave us a lot of latitude.
Yes.
All right, so
To buy
is that, you
I-
changed your
I'd
motion?
second for discussion.
Well,
No, he's already got a
there's
second.
there's already a motion, so I just wanted to make sure the second is okay with that.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so now we can go on.
I thought he did just for discussion, but yeah, that'll work.
All right.
So, well, what he's saying is if these three fit in there with the decals and stuff underneath that price range, then that would be the goal. So it wouldn't have to be 46, it could be 39.
Well, they've got one here for 32, and I don't know why.
No,
Does
just,
that include,
And are these from MIDeal?
Yeah, no, he was, when I was talking with MIDeal on the phone, that is a bare bones, that's like a base price. Okay,
Without seats?
with, yeah,
well,
so,
the decals were gonna be separate anyway. That was in the original motion last week anyhow. So I mean, that's a given.
Right, but
Well, it sounds like we're gonna be purchasing one way or the other, possibly from MIDeal.
yeah.
We just
Well-
gotta know what MIDeal's offer is gonna be to us and what it is. Do you even know what kind of truck it is?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a GMC Sierra, full-size pickup. And it sounds like it's gonna be a good deal because it was supposed to go to Genesee County. Now they're stuck with it and they just want to unload it.
Well,
And he just hasn't been able to give me the number yet.
and he's got it on his lot.
Yeah. Sitting on his lot.
Commissioner Robbins.
Fine, we'll work it through.
Yeah, we're only like 2.5 weeks away. Would it be okay? Do you feel comfortable if we, same as the printer, it's 2.5 weeks?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah.
We're piecemealing.
Sure, that's fine. Yeah. And I'll find out more about this truck he's talking about too, because I just found out about it like an hour ago, an hour and a half ago.
Just asking for official PO.
Yeah, yeah.
Can I just give clarification that the amended motion by Bonnie was to purchase a pickup truck along with truck detail or to waive bid requirements, it's my idea, it's already bid, but to purchase a pickup truck along with truck decals, purchased from Simplicity and the placement of decals by Troz Brothers of Cedar in an amount not to exceed $46,320 with funds coming from the motor pool fund and you can accept it.
All right, any other discussion on that motion, Mr. Campbell?
I'm still, I guess, we don't know how long, how much, how many hours. I know you've got more coming up, but and I don't know if this is some kind of a hybrid thought, but I brought it up last week that this is more than, I think the confusion is that this is more than a vehicle that someone whose employee would use to just go to a meeting or to go to some working event. This is actually the drain commissioner's truck. And so I think that's what is pushing a lot of this discussion. But I can't get by the part-timeness of the job and buying a truck for a part-timeness of the position. I'd like to try to work some hybrid out where, and I don't know if you can do this, but yet, because it is the drain commissioner's truck, to pay a couple $100 a month plus mileage, because you have to have a truck. You have to have one available and pay that to you. You use your truck. However, if you have some kind of a decal, you can put it on the side when you go. We work through that, but we help you afford that truck. But we don't walk out of the showroom with a truck that's worth $5,000 less for a part-time job. That's the part I have a hard time.
Are you willing to use your truck?
Well, it's not convenient because I'm not the only one using my truck, especially in the winter. The wife uses it too.
Okay.
So it's not a convenient solution.
It's your only car. It's probably yours for that.
It's the only
Winter car.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
I get
Yeah.
And you've got insurance issues, liability issues.
Well, that's why you add some money in.
Well, that's why the county buys its own cars.
All right, any other discussion on that? If not, I'll just, I guess. I'm a little nervous of spending this much money with what you brought up with, and I understand within the motion that would fall under that if that deal did come through, I guess. Or it'd be a lot cheaper, that understanding, but I'm struggling with paying that much for a vehicle. We got other quotes here, or not other quotes, but other prices here that we could get, well over 10 grand, possibly cheaper. So I would be more comfortable with just tabling it till March if he has time to do that and trying to figure out, till you get a better quote from them. And that's where I'm at, I guess, specifically.
Okay.
But I think we ought to work with Kathy. I think we've got to be careful about individuals negotiating.
All due respect, all this is gonna come through this office.
Yeah.
I was speaking to the fact that our drain commissioner had reached out to, or had received a call from a dealer, and I don't think we want to do that.
Yeah. Well, I was just being proactive. I wanted to get something done.
I noticed that about you. That's good.
Any other discussion on that? If not, why don't you do a roll call on that?
Commissioner Bonnet,
Yes.
Commissioner Campbell,
No.
Commissioner Robbins,
No.
Commissioner Walter,
No.
Commissioner Wessel,
No.
Chairman Yoder,
No.
Commissioner Alguier,
No.
fails 26.
We will continue working on it. We'll keep you informed.
All right, well, now you might as well do your drain commissioner update since you got your engineer here, so.
Yeah, does everyone have this? Was this in your packets? Bunch of the red lettering.
You got to look at this briefly, didn't you?
Yep, you're good on those numbers. Too. Yep, she just took those numbers off of this sheet for that spreadsheet. So, Thank you. Apologize for being late. I'm Brian Sensi with GEI Consultants. Been working with the Drain Commissioner since 2018 and various drain projects. And I had talked to Tim when he came in last month and wanted to get on the board because I know we have some new commissioners. Some of you know me and see me every couple months, but there are some commissioners that this may be an entirely new thing that you know nothing about. So you're in maybe the same boat that some of the other commissioners were in 6-7 years ago when they were first learning about county drains. So we did get 2 new drain projects that had boards of determination. That's essentially the go, no go hearing that's done. We had that at the end of November in this room. We held 2 on the same night. One was for the Little Glen Lake drain, which impacts the south side of Little Glen Lake, west of the lake, the Narrows, the channel, maybe like 1,000 feet on the south side of the road. The road commission had done some digging out, trenching along the south side of M22. Essentially, there's flooding up against 22 between those houses. It's been a problem for a while. We tried to work with the road commission and also MDOT because they did a resurfacing project last year. We had some discussions for almost 2 years trying to avoid a drain, which is usually our first step with these drains, is we try to avoid making them a drain, either by having another entity do it or in some combination. But ultimately, their MDOT stuff was just for resurfacing. The unique thing about this project is it is predominantly going to be paid by MDOT, not through MDOT's, like the TSC or like how they fund projects. They have a pool of money that pays for drain assessments. We work with the drainage division of MDOT, and on some projects, depending on if they feel that their contribution or to the issue or to the problem is higher or lower, not anything you'll get them to say to you, they will look to contribute more. So I've got a commitment basically of around 90% of that job is going to be paid by MDOT. So that's why there's very low numbers for the county, for the township. If you look at the bottom of page 1 where it says estimated at-large assessments, the at-larges are like the townships, the county, MDOT, and the road commission through the county. So the board is aware, I believe it was November of 23, former Commissioner Christensen came to the board and basically set in place an assessment setup for the county because Leelanau County doesn't, I think there's one charter township. We ran into this issue on the first project, Lake Bluff Drain, which we were looking to fund. Most of my projects are downstate. They're all charter townships. The township needs to raise money for an at-large assessment. They can simply, go to their board. That's not the case if a non-charter township. So what Commissioner Christensen stepped in, went to the board and basically said, look, on these new drains, so when we establish them, we can't hit the townships how we normally would because they get assessed based on public health, convenience, and welfare. That's what it says in the drain code law. That the county is going to pay a higher portion up to not exceeding 30% of any one job. So we've done 2, which the county's been assessed thus far. We did the Lake Bluffs drain, which I think the county was like at 29.5%. And then we did South Bar Lake drain, which was constructed last summer and fall, and completed in the fall. So those are the 2 on the very back page. They're completed. Their assessments went on the books this last year. You guys got recouped all the money that you had lent to those drain districts to pay for all the costs getting up to the borrowing. So in the sheet that Kathy held out to you, just for the commissioners that aren't aware, in the drain code law, the drain commissioner is supposed to have a revolving fund of money, and that revolving fund basically pays for work on projects or drains up until, because the drain commissioner can expend $5,000 per mile per drain unencumbered. Maintenance needs to be done, something needs to be done, he can spend that money and not get a resolution or petition to exceed that. So, but in order to make improvements to a drain or exceed that $5,000 cap, or if it's a new drain, you have to have a petition. So either a municipality or landowner needs to come and petition the drain commissioner to establish these drains or to improve the drain to exceed that $5,000 limit. Little Glen Lake was a landowner petition. I actually think we got like, there's only 16 properties in the district and we got like 13 or 14 signatures. Basically everyone signed it because they wanted it. We went to Elmwood Township in regards to the Elmwood Township #1 drain. That, just because that's a little bit different, it was actually established in the 80s. It's why the Leelanau County has a whole history with that drain, and the whole process is why you guys have a drain commissioner. You didn't have one prior to that time period. We're just one person. So that one, because it's basically the issue is in right on the corporate limits of Traverse City. Some of the Traverse City is in the drain district, so they will be assessed. And it basically goes up to the county line, but we went to the township because we were trying to add lands to the district, but not have a hearing before we had that board determination. So we were just saving some time and costs. So we talked to the supervisor and we believe in their August meeting, they petitioned. So we held both boards of determination the same night in November and they passed. So, and just so you're aware, I was saying on the cost. So because there isn't a revolving fund, and this is the way that several counties I work with throughout the state, they do this, is they pay for the drain. They essentially use their general fund as the drain commissioner's revolving fund. So you are paying for like my time, like if to develop a design or if we do a mailing, the county from the general fund is essentially paying that, but it's being accounted for the district. And once we have a design completed and we go to bid, then each district gets their own financing separate for the county. So each district too, so you're aware, is just like a municipal entity, can be sued, can borrow money, and you know, it can do basically all the same things the county can do, legally speaking. So when we go to bid and we finance, then that money, that whatever is expended, so we had Lake Bluffs, last year we did South Bar Lake, that money after the bond proceeds, whatever that lump total amount, that goes back to the county separately, and then they'll pay their assessment separately. So there is an assessment associated with it, but that money that's funding all the work, all of that gets paid back. Where that is a savings and a help is if the county didn't do that, like I said, legally speaking, they're supposed to provide a revolving fund. That's like the second line of the drain code. But we could simply go to any bank and borrow money, but then we're going to be paying interest on it. So it's some counties that have it set up this way. Berry County that I work a lot with does it this way. Leelanau does it this way. Same thing. They're similar counties, more rural, but the idea is that you're basically lending free money for the district and then they pay it all back. So it is a savings to the property owners and to everyone that's getting assessed in the drain district because there's no borrowing cost on that. And I will say, so we've completed 2 of the projects. There are 4 in the queue. I've kind of listed them by how we think they'll be able to go to construction. The 2 that potentially this year are the Timberley Drain, which is basically half a mile west on Fouch Road of where Lake Bluffs Drain was. It's on Timberley Hills Drive, Mount Josh. On the map, it's on the Elmwood Township, Solon Township line. It's there's a sand dirt road there. And that's essentially where that drain project is. We're waiting on one easement that is kind of the crux of everything. And that's been our big holdup. And so as long as we get that easement, you know, we'll likely be able to go to construct that this summer and be able to get it on the books, on the taxes for December 1 and 25. That might be a possibility for the Little Glen Lake drain. We actually had a meeting with Eagle today on the Schaumburg drain separate. But we may not need to get an Eagle permit on that project because basically there's actually a pipe underneath the road, underneath M22. And we may be able to just hook into that pipe and not have to put a new line in under 22. So. And then we've got the Schaumburg drain and the Elma Township #1 drain. The Elma Township #1 drain, the petition was really for your classic consignments, Glendale Burger Place in there. There's flooding that occurs just south of Carter Road and M22. We have worked a lot with the road, MDOT on this because MDOT has basically a project to rip up 22 from 72 to the north. And they're going to be plumbing all new water, sanitary, storm sewer through there. So we have been in communication and working with them throughout. They understand our project. And so the idea is once all the new storm sewer is going to be replumbed in 22. And we are going to hook into that new storm sewer. So that's kind of the plan, but we need their stuff to go in first. Otherwise we can't do any of the work in that area. And then we have talked to the road commission. There were 2 culverts that they were going to do. They've already been permitted to do them. They had them on the books to do them last year. Steve and I met with the road commission a couple times, but the second time we met with them was there's a potential that they may make both of those crossings part of that county drain. Actually, one of them is actually the old 85 drain. It's on 80. So, but we need to have further discussions with them in regards to how we'll break up the cost and the work on that. So. Yeah.
You talked about the road commission. Steve told us, I think last spring, that although we could request that the road commission pay their 12.5%, they would have to vote to approve that, and we aren't guaranteed that we would receive that. Is that correct?
Yeah, so how the road commission percentage works is the road that in most other counties, the county is only assessed for benefits to county roads. Okay, so there's in Act 51, which kind of really controls where they can expend Act 51 monies that they get for their right of way. There is a whole process called Rule 14A that lays out how they can take that Act 51 monies and pay for drain assessments through that. So essentially what we've done is the county we're kind of treating as this entity that may between 0 and 30% for public health, convenience, and welfare. We agreed to use that Rule 14A to determine the road commission's percentage. And what it says in the law is like, so if you determine using that formula, it's like 10%, say, then the road commission would pay 5%. And I don't know if that's optional. So I think that's,
I think.
I'm not sure how you guys worked that out. If you did, I thought you had some resolution with them.
We
or
did.
Something.
There was a resolution that was passed number 2024-005 last year, where we would work collaboratively with the road commission. They wanted to be kept informed each drain at a time, not just be presented a bill, if you recall that. And that they would reimburse 50% of their percentage that we pay on their behalf. So there's a spirit of cooperation there. There is a resolution that was passed last year. I heard loud and clear, they just don't want to be surprised. They want to be working with us toward that.
Yeah, and
because
that's
of
how
budgeting.
That's how we did the South Bar Lake drain. So like I sent them our Rule 14A like calculations prior to our day review, which is like our hearing when all the percentages and assessments are presented to everybody. And we try to meet with like the townships ahead of time and the road commission now, but we sent them the information prior so they could basically, so they don't need to come to the day review. They can just be in agreement. with it. So that's how we'll continue it going forward.
And if I could just walk you through the overview, I've taken the information that Brian provided on his summary of drain projects. And the first column is the total estimated cost overview of each project. The county share is again an estimate, rough percentage up to 30%, up to 30%. However, we also pay the road commission share for them. So the second column, county share, would be ours plus the road commission's amount. Then I broke out a column for county road commission share, just so you'd see what the calculation looked like. And then if they were to participate in resolution 2024-005 and reimburse us 50%, it does state 50% in the resolution, then we would expect if all 4 drains came to fruition, $101,250 back from the road commission. So far, as Brian has mentioned, we don't have the revolving fund. We are paying the bills on behalf of the drain commissioners, contracting, engineering, things like that. They are pointed off in the or the drain commissioner's budget. I keep a running cumulative tally of those expenses since inception, which is down below. You'll see an inception column for each drain. So far, like on Little Glen, even though our share of Little Glen, should it become a drain, is $7,500, we have already spent $28,000 in engineering costs on behalf of the drain commissioner, which when Little Glen bonds, they'll get a chunk of money. They'll pay Leelanau County back the $28,300. We pay our assessment of $7,500. You do have options on your payments. And then, so I'm just showing you the net cash flow in the far right column. It's a cash flow. Because we will get paid back what we fronted, but then we make our assessment to the drain district. And because this has been over a span of many, many years, going back to 2018, the Bank of Leelanau has a revolving amount of $353,000 toward these 4 drains. It's taken years to get this amount of money expended, but once they become drains, that's paid back. But that second column is our share of those drains. Have I thoroughly confused you?
I just want to say one thing before you start the question. Those, just so everyone's aware, like, I have never done this for any other county. And I've never found another engineer that would do it. So this is my best take at everything based on cost and everything. You will not get any other drain commissioner or engineer to ever give you percents ahead of time like this. So, you know, and I think in the first 2, they were all close to this, but just so you're aware, I mean, this is like, I've been doing this for 25 years. So this is my best take on all these, where they're at, how many easements we need, and permitting, where I think we're going to come in at. And it leans on the more worst case. Okay. So it does lean on, I'd rather give you worse numbers than be under that. So. Sorry.
Commissioner Bunny, and then,
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I mean, I think that's a very good presentation, and I think this should be given to the road commission as, you know, as an overview. And that they, at least, you know, we communicate with them that this is what we're thinking and.
Yeah, they did get that. They do get this.
They
Yes.
do, okay, and would they get a copy of that?
No, but she sent this to me. I can forward it to them, but yeah.
The ink is pretty wet.
Yeah, she literally just was like, yeah.
I like that idea that we, you know, communicate with them, be transparent, and keep this going.
Mr. Campbell.
Can you just walk me through the budget ramifications, like it's a general fund, 353,000. That's an amount that's got to get pulled and then we're reimbursed. How does that fit in?
We have already spent this money over years. So this is just an accumulative tracking of the funds. When it is spent, you'll see in claims, late claims, I believe tonight, there's 2 bills for GEI that are going to be for 24 expenses for 2 of the drains. I think it was.
Basically, it's all of Little Glen and Elmwood #1 for all of 2024.
So those are going to be put back to the 24 budget. They are pointed off in the drain commissioner's budget. There's 101, 690, 275, and each drain has a line item in his budget. So then we amend the drain commissioner's budget to keep up with those expenditures. The general fund is fronting that money.
So over a number of years, it's a zero-sum game,
Well, I mean.
pretty much.
Yes,
because
Eventually, yes.
You will
Yeah.
get it back. I mean,
Yes.
yeah, but then you do have your money that you
Portion,
put
yeah.
yeah, you
forward
still have your
towards your
assessment
drain.
at the end.
Our share, right.
Yes.
But
yes.
in terms of the borrowing the money and then get it, yes. Like the Schaumburg is the one that's been out since 2018.
Okay.
And that's last on the list too, which is.
And what will happen is we get close to a drain, then there'll be a letter that the drain commissioner sends out to all the property owners and they'll say, okay, this is where you're headed. Do you want to pay up front, or would you like to be assessed over a number of years? And Leelanau County receives the same letter because we have our own question. Do you want to pay up front, or do you want to be assessed over years? And it wasn't in 24, it was 23 that we had the drains come to fruition in 23. We went drain less in 24. The Board of Commissioners considered both options, and the treasurer and I met, and we felt that the amount was so small over a period of time, we would just pay our share upfront.
It's basically a special assessment district for wetlands, it sounds like.
Well, not for wetlands. I mean,
Well, for
they're
poorly drained.
right. They're the special assessment districts for anyone that benefits from the project. That's how
Poorly drained property.
general it is. So most of the people in the assessment district have no issues, no problems. So that makes us highly unpopular, and we please a small majority of people when we do a drain project. So we're always working on democratically.
Yeah, I've already gotten a few phone calls.
So in looking at the construction, excuse me, to look at the construction projections, it looks like maybe Timberley will be the drain that comes this year. And if we stay still right now, we would be looking at finding $125,000. It's not in your budget to put toward that drain.
That's what I need to, thank you.
My question, and I don't know who it goes to, but I'm assuming some of these assessment districts are because permitting was allowed and building development was allowed in an area where probably wasn't wise to build. And I don't know if we can do anything about that, but I'm not sure that everybody ought to be paying for people who want to build in this track on a hill overlooking a lake, and then hear later that it's a assessment district because there's drainage problems.
Yeah, in general, and this is especially true with, like, I know for a fact Schaumburg. Like Schaumburg is about a third, maybe 25% of the drain that I deal with, like downstate, are unorganized, I'll say, development. So not looking at a big picture. Everyone, everyone's looking at one lot on one house. There's no issues, but when you put everything together, then you got issues. That's about a third of the jobs that I see. That's what, that they need a petition. And we're dealing with developments between like the 70s and 90s. That is a lot of that. That's what Schaumburg is that. Schaumburg is, you've had however many years a cold water stream going all the way down Schaumburg Road out to Lake Michigan. Now you have a house on every lot, and basically now you have the water going underneath two houses, like literally going underneath the two houses, because you just built and the water has just pushed from one to the other. So, and that's really why you need a drain district. The Elmwood Township #1 drain I mentioned, there's a whole history with that, with the DNR, and it deals with, I think, the mobile site. But that was basically, they said, you need to have a drain commissioner to deal with this stuff, because you can't be looking at things at a macro level and not have anyone with the authority to do any of that stuff. You can't. So I will say the end goal in mind in all these is to resolve whatever the issue is in the most cost-effective manner possible. And we're continually trying to do that. We had a very lengthy meeting with the state on Schaumburg today, because we've had our permit in for over a year, basically, January 24. We haven't, we still don't have it. And there's basically, you know, it was a good almost a brainstorming session of like, what can you permit that we can accept financially to build, they're able to build, and will still work, resolve the issue. You know, that's kind of where we were at, like, what will you permit? And we'll do. And so that is the goal on all these projects. And we are trying to do them as fast as possible. Time equals money. The more time, the more, you know, things stay open. But
I just have one comment on, is it Slope Drive in Timberlake? I mean, because there's only one house in there.
I mean, I'm probably, it's listed on the map like as Mount Josh in some maps. Like if you look,
Turns into Mount Josh.
like Mount Josh at the end, but it's like, I think that on the plat, it's called East Timberlake Hills Drive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's,
as you
Somebody
come,
should build down there.
as you come
But
south,
no, there's like 6 houses on the east side of that road.
Yeah.
And one.
it's an open field to the west. As you come south off of Fouch, about a quarter mile, then it turns into Mount Josh.
well, that's, that Timberlee, that's,
This is
half of it is in my district there, and I
Yeah.
remember, I mean, I met a lot of the people there, everybody in there, 100% supports it. But you go anybody out of that, adamantly opposed to it.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, I couldn't believe it when I was up there, why people built their house up there. It was crazy, you know, it's literally a sand hill, and that's probably why you have to, you know, do that, because there's terrible drainage there right now. You know, they can't, emergency service can't get up there. It's crazy, you know, so.
This is just an overview, correct?
Right, yep.
Okay. So we're getting to a lot of discussion over just an overview of projects we're working on.
Not all of it's overview, it's some financials here too. so.
Well, but that's not gonna come back by a later date when we do an action item on it. So we do have things on the agenda we've got to take care of.
All right, well, do we have any other questions for drainage?
I just wanted to get us on focus what we're here for.
Yeah, the only time if we're all done that you will see us for any kind of approvals is when we come to finance the projects. If the bank requires us to get full faith and credit, then we come to you. If not, you may not see us other than these updates. Oh, and I will say, if anyone wants, I wrote it. It was a good, the Lake Bluff Drain received the Innovational Excellence Award from the Michigan Association of County Drain Commissioners for 2024. Steve was presented with the award at our drain conference, but there was a write-up all about it in our Drain Commissioner magazine called Pipeline. It's on the cover and everything. If anyone wants a copy of it.
Administrator?
Yeah, you can keep a copy of it. Little thing of history. Steve's got one of the awards down, Tim's got one of the awards down in his office.
All right, thank you. All right, we get to move on our agenda. We're up to action item 3, maintenance heat pump replacement.
Next week, we presented to you a recommendation to purchase, let me think here, total of 14 heat pumps for the system to a total of $153,000. We had in the EDS that was handed to you last week, we had in there for 12, but then we found Friday before, the law library, the VA room that's used, those heat pumps went out, so we added 2 more to it. So it's asking for approval.
Mr. Money?
Yeah, I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners waive bid policy and approve the purchase and installation of 14 Climate Masters or water furnace brand heat pumps to the D&W Mechanical Fund. Funds to be transferred from fund number 516 DTR to fund the 470 Capital Building Fund in the amount of $153,000. Expenses come from the account ending in 970019. Heat pump replacements.
Support by Commissioner Walter. Discussion? All right, if not, all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Or opposed, say nay. One. All right, next up, we have item number 5, planning MMPC bylaws amendment.
Let you handle this one if you like.
I think you're off on your agenda. I thought I was up next.
Finance motion event raider first.
That's correct.
Yeah,
I
finance.
keep Xing off too quick here.
Yeah, I would
One
not.
Faster.
I'm good. I would not help you with the MMP. Sorry, I can't help you with that.
Go for it.
No, in January, you did pass a motion on the grant writer for the DNR grant, and Commissioner Bunnick was correct. And after discovery and discussion, I'm asking you to pass a motion so that I can apply that expense to a different account number. This is a housekeeping, but if I could have you just make the motion, it will override the first motion.
All right. Make a motion. Commissioner Elgar,
I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve the MCSA Group Inc. proposal for the preparation and submittal of a Michigan Trust Fund Development Grant application for the proposed Veronica Valley Lower Point Trail project in an amount not to exceed $6,500 from Parks and Rec Department 101-850-756-801. And furthermore, authorize the chairman to execute the agreement with MCSA Group Inc.
support. Mr. Bunnick, discussion? Not, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Thank you.
7-0.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, now we're up to planning MMPC bylaws amendment.
On this one is, reasons here, we finally got the proposed change to the bylaws to whereby now that a county commission, a member of this commission and a member of the Benzie County Commission will sit on this planning, this MMP planning, or this regional material management planning committee. So I know this is something that Mr. Wessel had concerned about how we should be, so approve this and we're covered. You've already been appointed, so we just got to make sure we got the right number in here.
Mr. Russell,
I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve Materials Management Planning Committee, known as the Lower Northwest 2 Regional Material Management Planning Committee, amended bylaws as presented.
Second.
all right, supported by Commissioner Robbins, discussion? Not, all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried 7-0. All right, next up, we have emergency management, RFP approval for EMS renovations.
Now that you have accepted the grant from the 2% grant in earlier action, we're ready to go and issue a request for proposals to undertake the project. And that is what this is, that's what's in for you. You see the RFP that's been prepared, and we're asking for your permission to proceed.
Bunny,
Yeah, I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners agree to allow the request for proposal from Leelanau County 911 Dispatch Council Replacement Project to be published.
Second.
Commissioner Robbins, discussion? Not, all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried 7-0. All right, next up, we're under administration, 2% allocation acceptance, Leelanau Christian Neighbors Food Bank.
Okay, you still need to accept 2% out, you still need to accept 2 grant proposals that was submitted. The first one is to the Leelanau Christian Neighbors Food Bank Program.
Russell,
I move to accept the 2% allocation award from the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa for Indians to support senior services within our Christian Neighbors Food Pantry at an amount of $57,800.
Second.
supported by Commissioner Elgar. Discussion, Commissioner Money?
Yeah, I voted no on this, and I mean, and that has nothing to do against Leelanau Christian Neighbors. I think it's a great, charity, and it's a great, wonderful thing. And it's the same reason I asked, and I'm gonna say it's the same reason I asked for the VFW grant to be thing. These are 501c3s, and that was pointed out to me that that each one of us, as a commissioner, took the oath to uphold the Constitution. And it is unconstitutional for us to donate or lend tax dollars. All right, there are many worthy 501c3s in Leelanau County, you know, that we could support, you know, and I just wrote down a few of these, and all of them need, you know, different things that would help them. You know, so why are we not, you know, doing Sutton's Bay Friendship Center, which is doing a renovation? Why aren't we doing the Lions Club? You know, or the baby pantry for West Bay Covenant, or American, you know, Legion Hall, or a Cedar Rod and Gun Club, or Northport Sportsman's Club, or even the Leelanau Cancer Society. I mean, all of these are 501c3s. All of them need money for different things that they need to do, or for handicaps. So how are we deciding which charities we are going to donate the money to? You know, and I can go through, and I'm not going to spend the time on it, but I will. I can go through how this is an ad valorem tax. It's for their property tax, and you can read the agreement and see where it's put in there. So we should not be donating to 501c3s, and I just think that this has gone on way too long, and at some point somebody's going to sue us, and we will be in trouble. And I don't know if we'll have to pay it back or what we'll have to do, but it's just wrong to be donating money to these causes.
And I understand what Commissioner Bunnick's saying. We're not donating this money to Leelanau Christian Neighbors. Leelanau Christian Neighbors and Senior Services have worked out an arrangement that LCN can help us honor our commitment to senior services. And our senior services people are over there at Leelanau Christian Neighbors on Food Pantry Day, handing these out. Our senior services people pick up food that's not used and delivered to seniors. This is a partnership with a nonprofit that is doing part of our job for us. It's not a donation.
You asked and looked and spoke to a lawyer.
Yes.
Chairman,
Oh, yeah, and I did, based on what Commissioner Bunning said at the last meeting, I did ask our attorney about it. And I guess his explanation was the fact that we're in an agreement and have a contract with them, it is not a violation. So that's, yeah, so I did check into that, and he did confirm with me that it is not a violation if we do this. And I guess for me personally, I don't see it as us donating it, they contracted with us. The tribe is running the money through us to give it to them. So I don't see it as a donation from us to them, because it's not our money to begin with. That's how, I guess that's how I see it. Mr. Bunning.
Yeah, you just stated we give it to them. That's a donation when you're giving them money. And the senior services was voted on. It's a tax that is voted on and approved. So this is not something that was voted on and approved to give to Leelanau Christian Neighbors. If it's going to be in coordination with them, it should come out of senior services budget. If they need the money to go over to Leelanau Christian Neighbors and give things out. I mean, we have unmet needs. We have all the things, you know, so I mean, if we're going to give $57,000 to them, we should have bought the truck. Or we should be buying our animal control truck with that money. Those are the kinds of things that we're supposed to be asking for. Not unless we're going to vote to give the 2% funds, have a vote on it from the people, then we shouldn't be giving it to charities. And it'll be the same thing. I have a son who belongs to the VFW Hall. And I would like to see us have handicapped over there, you know, accessibility, but then we need to do it for the Lions Club. We need to do it for Cedar Rod and Gun Club, and for any club who needs it, that public are using.
Chair, point of order.
So that's it.
yes, I was gonna call the question.
All right, so with that discussion, no discussion, all right, we'll call the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
Nay.
Motion carried 5-2.
And we have the second allocation, which is our second acceptance of a grant for the VFW Road Access Project, handicap access project. Same discussion, so we need to accept.
I would we accept that grant from the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians to fund a project at the VFW Hall. Court.
All right. Commissioner Campbell, did you read, were you just reading off the cuff, or did you have a?
That was my Gettysburg
I got
address
the-
right there.
Seconded it.
Commissioner Wessel? Yep. All right, any discussion on that?
No, I would just say ditto, and I have a son that's in the VFW, and I know that they need the handicap. But I just think that, again, this is a donation, and you can say we have a contract, but, I mean, those same lawyers have told Sutton's Bay they can't have these contracts, or they told Leland School they can't, but yet we can.
All right, any other discussion? Not, all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Motion carried 6-1.
Then we get down to the second item on this agenda, which is the B, which we have agreements with these particular organizations to approve their agreements. That way we can now give the money to them, and they have to complete, they'll have to complete the forms as we have in the packet here of how they utilize the money and report back to the tribe. So first thing we need to do, and the first one will be from the Leelanau Christian Neighbors.
Oh, are you saying there's something for us to do here?
Yeah.
Yes, had them combined, so that's why I put them on your sheet.
Excuse me?
The EDS.
Yes, you gave me had them combined, so I just wrote one motion for both.
Okay.
You can do it that way or by.
Okay, it's on your page here. First motion is for the Christian Neighbors. Okay, you did one combined motion for both of them? Okay. It's the same thing for the VFW Lake Leelanau Little Fingers Post. We need to enter into agreement with them to utilize the funds as they have submitted to us. We will complete the agreements and they'll be signed between us and between the county and this organization. So you have a joint motion here, so cover both.
Russell?
I move to approve the agreements with Leelanau Christian Neighbors in support of the Leelanau Christian Neighbors Food Pantry in the amount of $57,800 for a term ending December 31, 2025. And with the VFW Lake Leelanau Little Finger Post in support of accessibility renovations in the amount of $12,343.16 for a term ending December 31, 2025.
Second.
Order by Commissioner Robbins, discussion? Not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Motion carried 6-1. Trauger?
I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners appoint Kim Todd to the Land Bank Fast Track Authority for a 3-year term expiring December 31, 2027.
Second.
Order by Commissioner Robbins, discussion? Not, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Yeah, I don't know if we'll order nay. There's a 2 nays.
4-3.
Oh, was it 4-3? Okay. That's 4-3. All right, next up, we have our Leland Dam property.
Okay, I'll go back again because someone asked here. You're not going to see this picture very well. For the public, and this is mainly for the public, and I know you all saw it last week. There is a piece of property, so you know, this all down here is the Falling Waters Lodge is all through here. I got it. Let me make sure I got it all right. It's all through here. Up through here, and the Leelanau Dam is right through here underneath the boardwalk. And out in here is a piece of property way out here that has a sheet wall going around through all this. And what it is, a portion of the sheet wall here is coming apart and it needs to be repaired. The owners of the lodge would like to have this piece of property. They will pay for the repairs. And because they thought the county owned it, they will want to quit claiming us to quit claiming it to them for $1 and they maintain it. The piece of property is landlocked on behalf of the county. We can't get to it. I mean, good, we can't. Problem is, we don't own it. We never have owned it. No one else could figure out how to own it. We've gone through every possible route to find if we even own it. And our attorneys finally came up after we've gone through all the items that we can do. And we've come to the conclusion we don't own it. However, these folks are going to be putting in a sizable amount of money to make the repair so it looks nice. And so they would just like to make sure if somebody down the road decides to come along and say they own it, and the county owned it, or somebody owned it, that they do have a quitclaim deed, so they have this in their pocket, so they can say, we now have it, we've made the repairs and we own it. Simple as that, or $1. We don't own it, it'll be $1 richer. So there you go, that's all I can tell you. It took us months to figure this out. So there you go. That's all I can explain.
Is it above ground?
Oh, yeah, about this much up above the pond. It's on the pond side, so that's where it's all at. So it's not on the river side. Yes, did I explain that well enough, Mr. Bunny?
Yes. I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners authorize the chairman of the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners to execute the quitclaim deed to the newbie Company Incorporated of the parcel of property identified as chart lot 3 of block 4 EE, Chandler's second edition to the village of Leland for a sum of $1.
Second.
All right, supported by Commissioner Robbins. Discussion? Not all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried 7-0. All right, next up, we have the DSC contract for 2025. Algar,
I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve the project management services agreement with DCS Technology Design LLC for professional services for the Point Broadband Project and consulting services for remaining unserved locations as outlined in the proposal from DCS Technology Design LLC dated February 1, 2025, with an amount not to exceed $120,000 and authorizes the chairman to execute the agreement upon approval as to form by the legal counsel and substance by the county administrator. Support.
motion made, supported. Commissioner Algar,
I would like to speak to this motion. Partially because we have a lot of people, this has been we've been working on this for 4 or 5 years and a lot of people do not know the history. So the LIFT committee, which Commissioner Wessel was on, worked on options for covering the 25% of our population in the county who had no or very inadequate broadband. Some people had dial-up still, could not download, could not engage. We had teachers going to the library at night to do their work. We had people running their businesses from the home, going to a library at night to do their work. We had children who could not do homework. At one point, they estimated that 25% of the kids at Glen Lake schools did not have broadband. Their moms and dads were having to take them to the library at night so they could do their homework. So broadband has become necessary to engage in life at this point. So they examined a lot of different options and opportunities, talked to a lot of providers, and then Point Broadband, and if I'm wrong here anywhere, Commissioner Wessel, Point Broadband offered a deal that far exceeded any figures that anyone in the LIFT committee had encountered. They saw an opportunity to come in and provide and cover a rural county, they do rural counties, to cover the 25% of unserved people and provide some competition for charter for those people who already had broadband. They offered a price of $5 million. Other prices that they had heard, I believe, were in way in excess of 10 million. So that was a real opportunity. Then we got the infrastructure money. And it was infrastructure money. It was going to cover 4.2 of the 5. That too made a tremendous amount of sense. There was a glitch, and I will say, people keep saying, well, they can get Starlink. Well, some people can get Starlink, but if you live in the woods, you can't get Starlink. It's also very expensive, and I do have constituents who are unable to get Starlink. Some that have, and they're paying twice what other people are paying. So, and I will guarantee that people who could get Starlink have done that because they've been waiting 3 to 5 years. At the same time, Charter had 2 grant areas on the west side of the county. And because, as a gentleman's agreement, I've been told, because Charter was already in there, Point did not bid on a few thousand people on the western side of the county, mostly my district and Chairman Yoder's district. So we knew that that was going to be an issue we had to deal with. And I know that we couldn't tell those people, well, your tax dollars came in and we decided to use it just for other people and not for you. We have to deal with everyone in the county equitably. Charter did indeed cover an extra 700 houses when they did their RDOF work, which was great. Not everyone is covered as yet. And we have a commitment to those people as well. They've been waiting 4 or 5 years. So we're not done. I must add, I'm going to add that there were people in Commissioner Wessel's district that could not call 911. That's unacceptable. AT&T was no longer going to service their landlines. So as people had problems with their AT&T phones, the suggestion was unplug it and throw it away or something like that. Basically, sorry about your luck. So we as a county cannot allow that. So this has been a long process. We have done our best to serve people in this county and bring equitable service to everyone here. And yes, it sounds like a lot of money and it's a very expensive process. Unfortunately, so that money was like the rural electric, federal rural electric work done in the, what, the 30s? Companies don't want to go into very rural areas because they can't make enough money. So then the government, we, the government, step in so that everyone can share in today's economy, so children can learn and people can communicate.
Yeah, I would like to have a division of the questions. I believe that one is the BEADS program and the other one is the broadband. I'd like to talk about those separately if we may.
Well, we have one contract before us.
So I just made a recommendation. Last year, you only had one contract, and it was for the broadband. The other one, you just paid separate.
Okay, so Commissioner Ronnie's point, he would like it split up where we would vote on Point Broadband project and then the BEAD project.
Correct.
Or the BEAD.
If we could do that, I believe we can.
Separate. No,
You wanted to amend the motion then?
no, we'll just, we'll
It's a
just break
division
it
of.
up. Yeah, we'll just break it up into two different, well, it's the same motion, but we'll just break it up.
You mean just for
Can I-
the
can I
discussion,
explain?
not for the vote?
No, for the vote.
Well,
If-
wait a minute, you have a motion to approve this contract, so you're gonna have to do something with that original motion not to approve this contract.
Okay, you're right. It would have to be.
Make a request to
I'd make a-
separate the
yeah,
question.
I would make an amendment to separate the question.
All right,
Because it is easily divisible, and I think it clearly can be divided.
I support that amendment, because I think we need to find out what's going to happen to the status of the BEAD program. And if it even exists, with the federal funding, and I think we need to consult to help us do that. But I think that's the first question before we approve of the BEAD program.
Right.
yeah, and that's my point too. I appreciate what point Robin has done, and I feel like we should continue that. So they can continue that project, but the BEAD program in general, I've heard some rumors about that may not be in fruition, since it's come from the federal government. So I'm a little nervous about that, so I appreciate you splitting that up, so.
So I'd like to address the broadband program. I mean, if I look at that, I mean, there's been many contracts for this thing. And the last one actually set for to completion. He was paid $156,000 last year, and it was supposed to be completed by June of 2024. Now, we're talking about adding $3,000 a month until September to complete it, and I just don't want to, I thought we've already paid him for completion. If we have, did he collect 156,000 last year?
The contract last year was 96,000, 12 payments of $8,000 for Point Broadband. The 5,000 that you're speaking of, the difference was by invoice for the West Side negotiations. So it was separate questions,
Okay.
very
So
similar
they
to
were-
what you're discussing now. But
Okay.
Point Broadband was 96,000.
All right, but it talked about completing Point Broadband by June of 2024.
Correct. However, that's what was approved last January, as I said in the cover memo. The county changed the completion date.
Right.
We made the change, not our consultant here. Because of difficulties Point Broadband was having, maybe internally, externally. This board or the previous board made an agreement that the contract would be completed by no later than September 31st, 2025.
So did his
we
consulting fee get reduced because of that?
No.
So because his consulting should have been continued if it was for the completion. We shouldn't be paying him again for the completion.
And you know what, the work continues. The problem that it
Have
was.
you been
delayed-
recognized by the chair?
I'm sorry.
Was question redone, or was that a question to the administrator?
That was a question to the administrator.
As I understand it, and according to our attorneys, he completed his contract for 2024 of $96,000,
The
period.
job is complete.
No, well, it is if you want to think, except that we have 3 more cabinets that will have to be reviewed. He's completed, he fulfilled his proportion of the agreement. If everything had gone according, and his contract was for, the way I understand it, I wasn't here.
Right.
But his fee was $90,000 regardless. Nope, it wasn't by month, it was $96,000, period.
But isn't he the manager of this project?
He is the manager of this project.
And so the project isn't getting done, and he managed it poorly.
I don't know if he managed it poorly or did not manage it poorly. I won't speak to that. All I know is that come last May, we had to go into negotiations in order for Point Broadband to be able to have the capacity to complete what we needed to have completed by December. And the only reason they didn't meet their goal, being up to cabinet 14, is because of Eagle coming in and said, wait a minute, you need to get some permits up to the most sensitive areas of land in Leelanau County, which I'm glad they did. We're all happy that they did. The permits are in place, so when the snow starts to disappear, they're gonna finish up the tip of Leelanau County. Then by next summer, they will finish the last 3 components, which is coming down all on the east side of Leelanau County.
So if I read this right, it's 96% complete.
Up there in Leelanau, up in cabinet 14.
Yeah, and then they
up
gotta
in-
complete this last 4%. And that's, and we're gonna pay $3,000 a month as a consultant for the last
That's it.
4%.
That's his offer. Which is a decrease from, what was it before, $8,000 a month?
Yeah.
I have it in here, wait a minute, he was charging $8,000 a month, and he has reduced it to $3,000 a month.
But he increased the other to
Yeah, I would like to interject, because 96%, weren't there 14 cabinets? So if there are 4 cabinets left, 4 of 14 is not, that's not 96% complete. And a lot of the delay also was just getting, he'd go into a homeowner, they would go into a homeowners association, and the homeowners association says, no, we don't want you in here. Well, a lot of the people did. So it's been tricky. It's been difficult. And Chris is in their hands. I talked to this man. He's in their hands-on. He talks to the workers. He talks to the managers. So it's not that he managed it poorly at all. It's difficulties in getting all of the approvals they needed to just keep working. Meanwhile, though, they were working.
And I appreciate the history. And I know a lot of people worked hard. But that's history. That's looking backwards. And I think what happened on this is that there was a wave of government funding, a wave of emphasis on providing access to rural areas that Leelanau County made an early decision to get ahead of. Anyone who's been on a wave knows you don't want to be ahead of it. You want to be with the wave because that's where the energy is. So that's why we have obligated $5 million for this project. Our neighbors, Benzie County, waited. And honestly, we should have seen this at some point. Their contribution, their payment is $1.5 million to cover everything. They hired a company that was a local company and worked with them. Their consulting fees are $20,000. We have paid Mr. Sheriff $388,000. So there's been, we've just been ahead of this thing, and here we are tonight with a contract that we've only had 3 or 4 days, didn't go through the executive meeting process. And again, we want to hurry it through for some reason. This idea of BEAD is interesting. The BEAD is a lot of federal money paying between $6,000 and $9,000 per hookup. And it's great for the 4 townships, your 4 townships. BEAD is going to go through regardless of if we hire Chris Scherer or don't, because there are bidders out there who are in line for this money. We don't select the company, the state does. We don't evaluate the company, the state does. This is not a local project anymore. There's just been such a flood of money come in. So to me, it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I asked the question on the performance, and I appreciate, because I thought the last contract was a performance contract, which means, okay, you do the work and you get paid. And because of the wording on that contract, it wasn't, there's an out, I'm not an attorney, but we're about ready to enter into a contract where, once again, there is no way to check performance on this thing. There's no requirement for an end of contract report. Look at our website. look at our internet website. The last thing on our internet website was by DCS in, I think, mid 2022. Go to Benzie County's website. Every 2 months, at least, there is a report on that website given by their contractor so that people know what's going on. I'm sorry to get wound up on this thing, but it just seems like folks have gotten so tight and close to it that they didn't have the separation to see that there are other ways to accomplish this goal, cheaper ways and more efficient ways. So I really don't want to approve this contract tonight. We tried to call Chris. He didn't return calls. I don't know why. He continued to work and he knew he didn't have a contract, continued to work in January. We met with him, you guys met with him, and we didn't have a contract with no contractual relationship. There've been some problems here. And I myself, I don't want to, I'd rather wait till March than try to work our way through them. And I want folks to know there are alternatives out there. There are other people you can hire. And there are other companies out there right now bidding for this work. And it's gonna happen, and you're gonna start seeing it soon.
Mr. Wessel.
Well, I'm alarmed at some of what I hear and some of the information. We just got this tonight, but some of the information you documented here is certainly a whole lot different than I remember. But he wasn't the project manager. He was a project consultant validator. His job was to consult with us, consult with Point Breadband, and validate that the people that were managing the Point project were doing their job. He's the one that let Kathy know when the county could send the bill. He's reported out to us at least a dozen times in the 2 years that we've been here. He's been on the Zoom, he's presented in person. I think we have to be careful about people that have worked hard for us and then being disrespectful to them or being critical of them. And I think it's okay for you to be critical of him, and I think you ought to do that in person. But to sit here and say some of the stuff that I'm hearing tonight, I think it's unfair. Chris has done an excellent job doing the project, and we would have failed without him. He's the one that helped save this project a year ago. And the other thing I'd say is you have more confidence in the BEAD program than I do, because I see every time I read the paper, they're pulling funds that were committed to projects, they're pulling them away.
And how will Chris change that?
Well, that's why I supported, that's why. But you're saying,
All right.
you're saying in this document, Mr. Chairman, he's saying in this document that the BEAD program will do this. I don't think the BEAD program will do it. I hope they do, but it's not Chris's fault. And we have to be respectful of the good service that he's given to us.
I need to say one really quick
Commissioner
thing.
Walter, then I'll go back to you.
I would say we kind of beat this to death. I wanna hear the motion again so that everybody understands what they're voting on, and then call the question.
Wait, you want it separated?
It is separated.
It is separate. It is separated. So we're talking about.
Can I make one statement, sir, before we do that?
Yeah.
Sir, you want to know what's on your agenda? For the last 2 months and a half, I've been questioning, when are we going to get a proposal? I've been requesting a proposal since November. It's on your agenda tonight. It's here. If you don't want to move on it, don't. It's not going to hurt my feelings, but don't criticize me why it's on this agenda, because it needs to be addressed by you.
I agree. I didn't criticize you.
No, you did, but that's okay. I can handle it. But I'll take it from there, because you questioned, why is it on this agenda? Why was it on the agenda last week? Because I didn't get a proposal
So
until
you-
last Wednesday night.
You're talking about last week. I questioned that.
No, you just questioned it tonight, but that's okay. We'll just watch the tape tomorrow.
All right.
I've
Okay.
I have one correction.
Hang on, I want to make sure.
You can understand, I can be a little bold and a little testy because I'm not gonna be here long-term, so I'm okay with it.
And I'm okay with it too.
Okay, thank you. So I'll just put the I'll just lay it on the table just as I want to lay it on the table, so don't like it? Okay.
No, I actually appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, and I know you do, because we'll have a cup of coffee tomorrow and we'll just laugh at each other.
Chairman,
Like
I
we did
I'd
last
like to
I
make a
would like to
correction.
make one correction though, and that is the reason he kept, when this man got this contract, he came up here and spent an entire summer, drove the entire county, stopped in front of every single home to measure whether they had broadband. He has been completely committed to getting this job done. So if he was helping us in January, that's why, because you have someone who is committed to us and committed to keep helping us.
All right, Commissioner Bunny.
I'd like to read on page 81. Okay, all the cabinets except 1, 2, and 7, as listed in attachment A, will be completed and paid by and on or before December 31st, 2024. This represents 96% of the unserved homes as identified in the attachment A.
That is correct.
That's what they're saying. 1, 2, and 7 are, those are ones in Elgin, Bingham, and Township. And they will be completed by the end of August of 2025. So we are talking about 96%.
Yeah, that August date is September 31st, the actual agreement. I mistyped that in here, so that's my fault. But it's August that the last 3 cabinets, and I can make a bet that they'll be done before September 31st. These guys will come in because they want to get it all done too, because they're not making any money until they get the cabinets done. So, and like I said, the only reason the cabinet 14 did not get done, Eagle stepped in, realized that we needed to get permits from them. And we're glad they did, because there could have been some failures that they would have had to go back and do some work. So it was a good thing to happen. And Eagle and Point Broadband have worked very closely to get the permit, and it's in their hands as of now. Here's the motion if you wanted to redo that. The motion would be that I move that the County Board of Commissioners approve a project management services agreement with DCS Technology Design LLC for professional service for the Point Broadband project as outlined in proposal from DCS Technology LLC dated February 1st, 2025, with an amount not to exceed $24,000, and authorizes the chairman to execute the agreement upon approval as performed by legal counsel to the Sutherland County Administrator. And the reason I put those 2 in there, I don't have a complete contract here, and I want to make sure that everything you desire is in that agreement so that we have it the way we want it, not necessarily. So that's how it's the standard process we use in Traverse City all the time. So I just follow that.
24 instead of 120?
It'd be $24,000, $3,000 a month for 8 months, not to exceed. If they get done in June, we're not paying for the last 3 months by month. It's a monthly fee.
All right.
That's what he was asking for Point.
Yep. He changed it from a flat fee amount to a per month amount.
All right, so Commissioner Walsh, do you have an understanding of what the motion is?
Yes,
and
I
what we're
just
voting
want to
on?
make sure everybody understood what we're talking about, because we've gone a lot of back and forth, so we know what we're voting on.
Thank you.
And let's vote.
Okay.
Can I just ask one clarification?
Yes.
It's a $3,000 flat fee amount, but previously it wasn't a monthly amount.
It was a total of $96,000 period that you're gonna have to pay out regardless, and we paid him out on an average $8,000 a month.
And then he would charge us $3,000 every time he finished one of those cabinets.
No,
No.
the 8,000 was inclusive of everything.
Kathy?
I was looking, it said regarding the Point Broadband project is expected to be completed by September 25, but could be completed sooner. If the final cabinet invoice and supporting documentation from Point Broadband is on or after the 10th of any month, the last invoice for DCS validation services will be for the following month, allowing at least 30 days to review, validate, and approve the final work. And it's up to 8 months. So there
Up to
is.
8 months.
And I would just need to clarify something. So I'm assuming we will vote on the bid if we receive the money. Is that how we're dividing this?
We haven't dealt with.
Yeah, we haven't got that
We haven't
yet.
talked about that yet. That's why we separate.
All right, so the first vote will be on the Point Broadband project and that contract in general, the 24,000, and then we'll do the B after that, so. So all in favor of the Point project, that contract, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Motion carried 6-1. All right, and now we're up to the B program.
In his, if I could,
Go ahead,
Chair,
yep.
the BEAD program is month to month and is expected to be reviewed, awarded, and accepted by individual ISPs by the end of 2025. This consulting service will terminate the month the BEAD awards are accepted and by the awarded ISPs. The BEAD program is potentially subject to new presidential administration review and possible changes. If changes to the BEAD program do occur, this agreement will be reviewed between DCS and the county administrator and mutually determine if a pause or complete termination of this agreement is in order. The agreement may continue upon mutual agreement month to month until all unserved locations within Leelanau County have been put into a plan for getting access to adequate high-speed broadband services. The current fees proposed will be valid through December 31st of 25. If by chance the BEAD process extends into 26, extension of this contract is at the discretion of the Board of Commissioners and subject to rate review. This is his proposal. This is his words.
A question for the administrator, would you advise or would you be comfortable with having this brought back as soon as we get a status on whether or not BEAD money would be available? We don't want to approve a contract until.
I will share that with him, and it may happen after I leave, but that's what I will do, and make sure the next administrator, if it doesn't happen in March, then it may happen later, but that's what it will have to be. That's your call to make at this point.
Yeah, I would agree. We need to verify that money's gonna be there.
We don't have a motion on the floor.
We have a half motion on the floor.
No, you do not have a motion on
Motion.
any.
We voted on the other program.
The other one that divided the question, that's the whole question.
Yeah, but we need a motion for the second half.
Got it.
Mr. Chair, we don't need a motion on the table. If nobody makes a motion, we don't have a motion on the table.
Right.
And I was suggesting that we don't need a motion on the table.
No.
Okay.
And we want to have discussion then?
No, not till we find out if it's actually gonna exist. It's not gonna exist, there's no reason to talk about it. You can spend a lot of time talking about stuff that doesn't exist.
I will say that if that money comes through, all it's gonna cost us is the consulting services by Chris.
I would like to have that discussion, just because I want to tell Chris that his fee was $5,000 for doing exactly the same thing. We got absolutely, that I can tell, anything out of it. There's no reports of who he talked to, when he talked to them. And now he wants to increase that to $8,000. So I think it's worthwhile having a discussion just to say, don't come back with us for the $8,000 and with the same identical thing, because I don't think there's support here for it.
You know, I can call Chris anytime.
Okay, we're talking about
We've had
something we're
commissioners
not.
talk with Chris before, but we're dealing with
Go
this
on
as
with
a
it.
board.
So we gotta have some order here. So Commissioner Walter, we'll go with you and then we're gonna move on.
Well, that's what I'm saying, I said, we're referring this down the road where it belongs, because there's nothing for us to talk about. We're wasting people's time.
All right,
So let's get on with the agenda.
all right. With that being said, we will move on to next agenda item, which we got the Leelanau Township Tower Project discussion. You get to update us more on that.
Well, you have a pretty long memo from me and a lot of information in there as it relates to the Leelanau Township Communication Tower timeline.
Yeah.
Oh, if you did see the Record Eagle today, Frankfurt is having a nice discussion on a 195-foot tower that got approved and is being built and the people didn't even know about it. Well, if you look at the timeline that we have, it shows a lot of talk going on for the last 2.5 years.
That's why.
The main thing is that I need to know you've got 3 choices here as it relates to the tower. One is you all well know, and it's been well publicized, that the Leelanau Township Planning Commission denied or will be denying our special land use permit. At the meeting that was held on January the 30th, they went through the standards that would have to be met. They only approved out of the 6 that needed to be approved, they only approved 1 of the standards. And at that, they put a condition on that that we may or may not have wanted to deal with. What would you want me to finish or you want to go ahead?
Go ahead. I'm just ready for when you're done.
You're rude. Is there anything here heavy that I?
You could have already thrown in that piece.
Go fast, right?
That worked. Water. There you go. Anyway, the big thing is that I want to bring to your attention is you have 4 agreements that they have to be dealt with. One of them is pretty easy. Well, one of your options is that in what is happening is that the Leelanau Township Planning Commission still has to vote on their, I'm trying to remember what it's called now, but it still has to vote to officially disapprove or their findings of facts. They still have to officially vote on that. And I'm sure they're going to do that at their next meeting. Or if it's like the speedy process has gone in the past, maybe not. But anyway, the only other option that the county would have is after they receive the findings and facts that's been voted on by the planning commission, if the county wishes desire that within 21 days of approval, that we would take them we would take the matter to circuit court. It's not a recommendation I would apply to you because now we're suing somebody or we would be contesting something that we were supposed to be working with the township. And if their planning commission doesn't think this was the project that we had was worthwhile, why do we want to take the risk of ruining or further damaging a relationship that is not of our making? On the first agreement is the agreement that we had with the property owners as it relates to using the site. I think the first thing we're going to need to do is that we need to terminate that agreement. I think you're going to need to terminate that agreement so that we know that it's no longer that we're going to move forward with it. We had the cost that we have associated with that particular agreement was about $17,000 or $18,000, or maybe a little bit more, a little under $25,000 as related to designing the roadway up through there, doing some soil borings, and also using the services of Progressive AE to help us with the work of going through that. The second one is the agreement with Midway Electronics. And as y'all know, the county did, when we entered into that agreement with them, we were required to give a 50% payment toward that so they could purchase a tower on our behalf. We have a tower on the ground at the manufacturer's location, waiting for us to request it being delivered or not be delivered. We also know that if we were to use Midway again, the prices of constructing a tower, I'm sure within the last year and a half have gone up. So we weren't going to get that price probably was not going to be the same. And our current agreement with them, our current extension will expire sometime late this summer. Part of it says that we need to probably close out this, terminate this agreement, ask them for an accounting of all the funds that we have given them. If there's any left over, that they return them to us. The third one deals, which may be a little bit more problematic, deals with the tower space. The tower space agreement with Cherryland Electric Cooperative. We entered into an agreement for them to allow them to put equipment on 4 towers. Now, 3 of them, the equipment's already been placed on the towers. In exchange for that agreement, they agreed to give us 40% of the construction costs that we had, $405,000, up to $200,000 toward construction. We've used that money mainly to help do the work as it relates to Midway Electronics, for their stuff. The question is going to be is, how much of that money are we going to need to reimburse if they have equipment on 3 of our towers right now, but the 4th one is not going to get built. It's a discussion that we think is going to have to take place with Cherryland Electric to see how they want to proceed with this particular part of it. And then the last one is our intergovernmental agreement of construction of the Leelanau Township Communication Tower with the township. This was approved by the township. I think I have it in there about 1.5 years ago. We didn't get that agreement fully executed until October of last year. Of course, when the agreement was made, it was 4 township supervisors ago. And the supervisor that was there last year was not a strong proponent of the tower. We did make the change that I did mention to him, that the agreement then was that once they executed it, they had to give us $100,000. The last thing we needed was to have $100,000 sitting in a bank account that we had that we would have to give back. So we were saying, no, you don't have to pay us yet. When we get the special land use permit, we can move on with it. So the question is that we ought to probably go ahead and just cancel this agreement with the township, or continue the discussion with the township about the tower, because we have one that we'll be glad to give them. But I honestly believe that the county should no longer be the front person for finding a location, getting everything completed on it. If there has to be a special land use permit, they can do that themselves. And once they have a spot, we'll be glad to talk to them again. We'll even give them the tower. I mean, yeah, that's part of our contribution, but we still need to continue that. You should also give consideration that whatever agreement you want to have with the township, we ought to make sure we're clear on the parameters and the financial resources that the county is going to want to participate in a future communication tower. You have to go through a special land use permit. At least there's one person that sat through most of that. The same criteria they use to turn our tower down, special land use permit, they would have to turn down any special land use permit for a tower. And it's going to be, as I know, one person sent out an email to everyone, the same discussion as relates to having that the technology is going to take place where you won't even need a tower within 2 years. I don't know where that came from, but it may be true, it may not be true. My thing is, when I put all this in here, it was my responsibility to say, here's where we are, here's what we need to do. You have 3 choices. You can do nothing, set it set and let it ride. You can direct me to move forward with working on these 3 agreements, or 4 agreements, to see how we want to put that together. So it saves the next county administrator from having to do something. I would get as much done as I can in a month and a half. Or you can wait for your next county administrator to deal with all this. All the documentation is here. It's all waiting for me. So there you go. Okay, I'm done. Yes.
I have 4 motions here. I'll start with one, and if we get that one through, 4, then we'll move on. Yeah. One is, I would move that we provide proper notice to terminate the lease with Brian E. Mitchell and Holly Jandernoa.
Okay, reread that motion.
Okay, it'd be a motion, I move to make a motion to provide proper notice to terminate the lease with Brian E. Mitchell and Holly Jandernoa.
That's brother and sister.
There's support for
I'll
that.
support that. Can I just ask, is there a penalty for that, or I haven't made.
Well, that's what we'll have to figure out if we provide the notice and then we'll find out.
All right, any other discussion?
I'd like to discuss that along with the other three issues, because I did attend the township board meeting last week, and the board and individual trustees and the supervisor all commended the county and commended Richard for the hard work, and
Absolutely.
and did not agree with some of the statements that were made at the planning commission, but the planning commission is the planning commission. I believe the township knows that they still have the most underserved cell coverage in the county. And I believe the township's interested in coming back and saying, we'll do a site plan. We'll do we'll seek the permits. We'd like to work with you. I think except for the contract with the Mitchells, we ought to delay the others until we see what the township might or might not be able to do. Because the last thing we need to do is have a tower lying on the ground, or to pay for something that we can't use, or to try to sell something at a discount because we don't have a place for it. So I think we ought to hold off on the other three motions you were gonna make.
Well, let's get to discussing them, and if we don't get a second, then we will, but.
All right, any other discussions on that motion? Not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carried 7-0. All right, yep.
Yeah, I agree with most everything you said, but I do think that we need to proceed with the termination. Well, and I'll make a motion to proceed with the termination and an agreement with Midway Electronics and send the bill to Leelanau Township for the cost incurred. Skip that last part.
We can do that, and I will leave that to the next administrator.
Yeah.
I'm not.
No,
You're leaving a month, good for you.
I would just make the motion to proceed with the termination of the agreement with Midway Electronics and try to, reduce our costs as much as we can to that.
All right, is there support for that motion?
I'll support for discussion.
All right,
Well, you tell me how fast the township can, 6 months is like too long, and if they can figure out something in 3 months, that's probably about right,
And I'm not sure, and I'm not committing the township obviously to do it. If we cancel the contract, I suspect that the next contract with Midway for the same piece of equipment would be much bigger. And I think it would be some advantage to just hold off on breaking that contract.
What do you mean, the 3 months?
If you agree with that thought on those three, I'll be happy to go up and take on number 4 and see where they are going to be and report back at your March meeting. You can then move forward with everything else.
Well, yeah, my thinking is we need to talk with them, find out what it's gonna cost if we're gonna attempt, terminate it, what that's gonna cost, what's the cost if we wanna get the tower up here. Because I don't believe the manufacturer's gonna hang on to it too long.
Oh, no, and that's part of it here.
They'll start charging us rent,
And that's what I had down there on the bottom of that. If we want to proceed with termination without cost, because, that's okay, we can do that. We would like to do our right for the accounting of all the expenses relating to the agreement and above questions and possible reimbursement for remaining funds. But another thing we wanted to find out is what's it going to cost us to get the tower moved up here? What additional costs do we have that we haven't been billed for, such as storage of the tower, since it's been laying there for the last year? I don't know.
It's probably starting to rust.
I hope not, because then we had a bad tower in the first place. It's not supposed to rust.
Well, it's laying on the ground, though, it's my bad.
Oh. But those are questions that we would have to ask, and we may go ahead and ask them anyway without terminating it.
Well, I'll remove my motion if that's okay with the second.
is that okay?
Absolutely.
All right,
Okay, then I have your permission to at least go have a conversation and report back at our March executive meeting. That'd be great.
Is that okay? But,
Go ahead. Yep.
yeah, I would ask that we negotiate with Cherry Lane Electric and we get a final settlement on,
We'll see what we have there.
I would make a motion to do that. To
Well,
work
what
on
I
also
also may
bring
do-
that back in March.
I will work with Cherry Land to see if, because if the next tire goes up, they may be satisfied about that. I'll go talk to them if you want me to.
That would be my motion. That-
Do you want to make a motion or?
I don't know that
suggestion?
we will suggest it, yes.
Well, I'm saying for all, these last three agreements, we'll just leave them alone till I'll report back on all three of them in March.
Yeah. So are you good with leaving that as a suggestion instead of a motion?
Just, yes, that's a
Okay.
suggestion. Then, the fourth thing was, do we want to send a letter voiding the agreement?
No,
No.
I'm gonna go talk to them. Okay, we may amend the agreement. Once again, it's one of those, I'll have a conversation with Dr. Conley and see where they are.
I appreciate that.
And report back.
Thank you.
I just can't do nothing, you know, I'll do my best and try to leave it in better hands.
We try to give you a little leeway here. It's not much.
Get ready, buddy.
All right, moving on to item number 2, Blue Cross Blue Shield renewal.
Okay, last month, we got to find my add on here. Last month, whatever, I put it way back here in the back of this one. Last month, you approved the agreement to renew the agreement with Blue Cross Blue Shield. Now I've lost my spot here. Hang on. 'Cause I'll mess this up really quick. Last month, you approved the agreement to move forward with Blue Cross and Blue Shield. Well, what we learned about 2 weeks ago is that back in 2018, and you probably remember this, Mr. Bunny, and you, Mr. Wessel, that we went through the process with Blue Cross Blue Shield as our agent, or who manages our healthcare program, which we are self-funded. And there was a rider in there as well. Yeah, let me borrow that one. And what we had in there is that we learned that any employee who needs health care coverage due to an auto accident, Blue Cross Blue Shield would be the secondary source of coverage. That's the rider that we currently have in our Blue Cross Blue Shield package. And it's been there since 2018. Same rider. There's a small problem, 2 small problems. And the first one is, this was not the intent of the Board of Commissioners at the time that this took place in 2018, that they wanted Blue Cross Blue Shield to be the primary coverage if any of our employees or families, were involved in an auto accident. And letters were sent and all this stuff took place at that time to make all that happen. So that's what we did. Secondly, we also recently learned that the rider that's been in our package for the last 6 years, now 7 years, does not cover governmental employees. It has.
Doesn't cover.
Governmental employees. So any of our employees or their dependents, most likely, if there had been an accident, would not have been covered. Although they have paid some of the coverage, technically they didn't have to. So we all came this to. So what I have attached here is a housekeeping matter, which you'll find it is a revised agreement which eliminates the rider. And we have it removed, and thus making Blue Cross Blue Shield the primary healthcare provider in the event of healthcare provisions due to an auto accident, which was the intent that you wanted way back when. The reason why I added to put it on here is to change, and I wasn't going to just sign an agreement without your all's approval. So that's why it's here. We're asking that you go and amend it. That way I can sign this tomorrow as your representative and get this done and get it straightened out. So there you go.
Commissioner Walter.
I move the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve the renewal of the fiscal year 2025 Blue Cross Blue Shield contract as amended to the action taken at the regular meeting of the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners on January 21, 2025.
Second. Supported by Commissioner Robbins, discussion.
just if there's a cost associated with it.
If it was so minimal, it's around the area.
Just round it
No,
up.
because we're self-funded, we pay whatever claims, so it's not,
It's all on-
they have something in there for themselves, but we just pay whatever claims come on. I got that right, Kathy?
Yeah, that's what I understand.
You've got that right. They've already audited the numbers. There would have been a difference.
Okay.
They never should have been in there. And it was just noticed, because all the letters that they sent out, the employees have taken their car insurance based on the letters that we sent out in 2018, which I sent.
Any other discussion? Not, all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried 7-0. All right, next up, we have review of financials.
This is when you ask questions of claims and accounts or post audit. I've answered a few emails that have come my way. I think in late claims, there's something notable. Every year, we order the markers to hold the flags for all of the graves of the veterans in the county. And we do that cooperatively with 3 different groups, and my office coordinates that effort. And that's a bill for the American Legion. I think you see that in one of your claims. So that's just something you only see once a year.
I just wanted to thank you for sending this out about the vendor. I mean, that was really nice, and I really appreciated that, getting that in the email.
It's very
helpful. And,
Very easy to generate that, takes literally seconds. So if you have a vendor question, I can shoot it right to you. And I try to copy everybody so that you all see the information equitably.
Questions?
I have an unrelated question. When we do pay, and this is not controversial, I think, anyways, when we do pay Chris, it comes out of the general fund. I'm wondering why that doesn't come out of the ARPA fund.
When the Board of Commissioners approved that contract last year, they amended the special projects, which is funded from the general fund. They could have done it out of the ARPA funds, but they predominantly committed. And then in August, they were 100% committed to the balance of the point broadband contract.
It just, my gut is that it should come out of ARPA because it's part of the broadband project. Rather than the general fund.
Any other questions? All right.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, next up we have special reports. Special Commissioner Robbins.
Well, it's not really a special report, but I have a request for next month for Mr. Lewis, since this is last month. I would like to have on the agenda, we talked a little bit about it, just for discussion purposes only. The MERS come in and talk about, or have discussion on the MERS drop program, if we can.
Got it. And we'll also have a discussion on an opinion you received as relates to as requested DTR funds and broadband.
One more thing, for you and the public out there, this, what I just discussed about the MERS drop program, what it is we found out that, we're losing maybe 6 deputies, maybe this year. And it's hard to fill those positions, but this could be countywide, not just for the sheriff department. MERS, our retirement system, has a program they just started, I think about a year ago, where you can retire today, if you don't leave, start tomorrow, you keep your position, your retirement stops, but we get to keep the employees, they can stay up for anywhere from 1 to 5 years. And that'll give us some time maybe to find some new employees, and it's a benefit to the county and employees. So with some of these people that are going to retire the next few months, maybe they will put the brakes on and say, hey, maybe I'll stick around for a few more years and help us out until we can get over the hump and find some employees to replace them. So that's what I just asked Mr. Lewis to put on the agenda next month. So thank you.
Any other special reports, Commissioner Algar?
Just a comment. I believe we discussed combining the early childhood report with the health department. And those are 2 very separate issues. So it's not easy to, they would need more time.
Yeah, I don't know when that's scheduled, so I apologize. Early childhood and what,
And, Benzie,
what's that?
Benzie, we want to help. Or we need twice the time.
And I can make a report as a staff member right now?
Yep.
Okay. I've had requests by some of the commissioners that they'd like to see cash flow, to see the ebbs and flows through the year. And so I've done a 2-year summary of the general fund, cash, money market, investment bonds in total, DTR, cash, money market investments in total, and then a total of the general fund and DTR. So you can see the ebb and flow through the year and the impact of our collection and expenses. And I just thought that I can provide this on a monthly basis. Now, December is still an open month. We're still charging back. That's why it's gray. So don't consider that a closed account or a closed numbers. I'm still posting to 2024. But this is just informational because I've had people say that they'd like to know what we carry in those funds and the ebb and flow. And you'll notice as you get into the June, July, how the total dips down in the general fund. And then it starts climbing again because of our tax collection. So I just thought you might enjoy seeing that. And then at the bottom in the right left-hand corner is fund balance. And that is the fund balance. If you think about if you're private sector, it's like your retained earnings. It's all of your assets less your liabilities in a very simple term. And in some years, especially the general fund, it might dip, but we've had years where we've underspent and we've increased our general fund balance. And then there's years where we have had to use fund balance to balance our budget. So it does go up and down over the years, and I thought you might enjoy seeing that because it's not all doom and gloom. There are some years that we build it and some years we lean on it. So just information. Yes.
Yeah, in that, when you talk about the fund balance down at the bottom, is that the end of the year that there's a fund balance?
Yes, and
After the
24 is
audit?
not done. Yeah, after audit, right? So 23 is audited.
Right.
24 has not been audited.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I didn't interrupt you, sir.
Well, I hadn't had permission.
Oh, yeah, we're just jumping in. I'm sorry.
Just go for it.
Yeah.
This is very helpful and it's notable, I think, that for the last 10 years, our fund balance at the end of the year and both with just a couple of $100,000 difference, pretty much the same. So it does look to me like pretty stable spending, and sometimes we hear from the public that we spent a lot of money, went out on a limb. The fact is that for the last 10 years, we've ended the year at about the same position here now.
I just wonder about posting something like this, getting it on the website so that everybody can.
I will certainly talk to Mike, my assistant. He's very good at the website, and I will talk with him.
Thank you.
Sure.
Appreciate it. Yeah, that's very important. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other reports?
I'd like to see the grant.
All right, if not, we are on to public comments. Each one has 5 minutes if you wish to. Yes, sir.
My name's Steve Tostage. I'm from Cedar. Just a couple of comments regarding Point Broadband. Just wondering why the need to rush through an agreement when you only had about 4 or so days to work through it. Just a question. Just wondering how many homes are being served by the broadband service and how many aren't being served? And what's the cost per service per household? I think would be a pretty important number to find out about. We paid evidently $388,000 in consulting fees for this project. Where in Benzie, they paid $20,000. I wouldn't be proud of that. We paid $5 million for the service where Benzie paid $1.5 million. I wouldn't call that good procurement. And I live in Cedar and I still don't have the service. I can't get the service. So I'm just wondering how many people like me are expecting to get the service someday soon after spending all this money. So, thank you.
Public comment? Kowski?
Steve Mikowski, good evening again. Our observations in the public comment before the meeting regarding broadband seem to be pretty well on target. And I agree with the last gentleman that just spoke that something has to change in the way we do things here. And I like the fact that we have to be careful that we don't get ahead of the wave and spend ourselves into oblivion, even though it's taxpayers' money and we have all the money in the world to spend. On another matter, there are two things that we were surprised were not on the agenda for last week's meeting. They're very important to the public, I think, at least the electors. And one of them is the access to public meetings here in this county. The times, we gave you a complete form of the times of all these meetings, and it's almost an impossibility for a normal working person to attend any of those meetings. Those meetings are scheduled for the convenience of the meeting participants, the boards and the commissions. They're not designed, and we expect you to look at that and address it and understand why that is, or whether it's even necessary to have people at public meetings. Maybe you want to eliminate any public attendance. That would be an easy meeting to do. The other item is that's really required is an apology resolution for the harm and damage done by prior commissions that was done to the clerk and the staff and taxpayers, wasting nearly $1 million. That's really important for us to do. Otherwise, that'll become a legacy to our posterity for prior commissions and also this commission. Thank you.
Public comment? Mr. White?
Where was I? Well, that's right. The Titanic was about to hit an iceberg. The bottom line is that when I came here tonight to talk about this, that was my major concern, is that we are facing a significant debt issue, a spending issue in this county. And unfortunately, from what I've seen tonight, it doesn't look like we're slowing down from ramming speed. It seems like most of the people on the board are still voting for every kind of spending bill that comes to the commission. So one of the items on the agenda that I was going to address is the extension of the broadband project and an escalation of the amount of money that was going to be spent on the supervision of it by an outside consultant. I would respectfully and pointedly request that the board members reject that expenditure. Too late now. But in the future, any expenditures on the point broadband project that is not legally compelled, because in my opinion, it was a boondoggle from the very start. And the $4 million that went into that project should have been directed to things like fixing the existing capital issues, investment issues, like even the ones in this government building that we're sitting in tonight. Because we spent the money on a broadband system that was completely unnecessary, and anyone who was competent in the provision of high-speed internet service in rural areas would have known that was the case. And Alan pointed that out by saying how much more expensive it was for us. We now sit with a broadband system that is not only servicing a small percent of this county's population, we're still facing huge expenses to fix our government center. Despite that, there seems to be a move on the part of this board to spend even more money on the point broadband project. Remember, folks, this broadband project does not belong to this county. It's not our asset. It's one of the scandals of this whole thing is that we spent county money to provide a system to point broadband that they own. I don't understand why we would continue to do that. And unfortunately, the citizens of this county are not paying the price financially. As a taxpayer, I am stating very plainly, I do not want this county to keep spending one more penny on point broadband project unless they are legally compelled to do so. We just cannot afford it. We talk about how we're struggling to provide affordable housing to people in this county, but one of the reasons is that the expense of county government is a burden to those citizens. Some people claim that it's silly to say that because we have a tax burden that's a low millage. but our property values are so high that low millage does not sufficiently compensate people who are trying to make it in this county on entry-level jobs or on average fixed incomes as seniors. The affluent population of our county, including those who spend only part of the year here, aren't bothered by these things, but the people who have a sole resident in this county are being squeezed financially to the point where they cannot make ends meet and are going to be forced to make decisions on how they spend their money month to month on whether it could be food or their mortgage or their healthcare expenses. When the residents of a county are having that kind of a problem, and I have talked to a number of them who were when I was knocking on doors for my campaign, it is unconscionable that the county board would be careless about how they manage the tax monies they collect. Fortunately, I believe this board is composed of a majority of individuals who understand this is a problem. I'm also letting the board know that my role as the chairman of the Republican Party and in service to the members of my party is that I will continue to come to these meetings and monitor the activities of the board and the expenditures of county money. I'll be looking for actions that would suggest that those priorities are being addressed. I know for a fact that Alan Campbell has committed himself to be a budget hawk, and I applaud him for that. But I'm also letting the board know that I will be communicating with my members when these things happen, and we will bring the receipts when we tell them what is happening and what this board has done. If you feel that your constituents are indifferent to what you spend, all I can tell you is that you will soon find out if that's true or not based on your actions. My bet is that the vast majority of the people in this county want efficient, transparent, and productive allocation of their tax dollars to be standard procedure. And I also think that they want to keep more of their hard-earned money not funneled into county coffers. If you need help getting support for spending cuts or program cuts or any sort of rational plan to reduce spending, the Leelanau County Republican Party will stand squarely behind you, and as will I. I also know that the vast majority of my party members will support and vote for party board members who do likewise. However, as strongly as they will support someone who does that, they will be equally strong in their opposition to board members who do the opposite. They are fed up with the county confiscating their hard-earned money and wasting it. Thank you for your time. I appreciate your willingness to listen to your constituents.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Yes. Yes, Kathy?
Kathy Dawkins, Leland Township. Again, I appreciate what the board has been doing as far as spending the money. I do not know what Benzie has done with their broadband. So to hear that they've spent less money, we've spent a lot. I would like to see, are they both apples or is one apple and one a plum? I have no idea what's going on there versus what we've been doing here. So before we make any decisions based on that premise, I would like to see more information. The other, this county is made up of basically two major parties with other parties in between. Right now, the Republican Party and Chair Yoder, if I'm getting out of bounds, please let me know. I'm not trying to do this. But right now, the Republican Party is not doing this country any favors. And for somebody to come in here and use that party as a standard for how we are going to run this county is disgusting to me, reprehensible, scary. I do not want to see that happen here. I want us to remain a safety net for our constituents. I want the money to be spent fairly, but I do not want for the standard that is being used right now, where people are literally losing their jobs out of country. I'm reading all sorts of situations that are third hand from people that I know about what's happening because of the policies going on right now. We've got hackers and children, young people that are going into our personal data. And this whole thing is scary. So please continue what you are doing here, but I do not want the Republican Party policies to be used as our standard. Thank you.
Keith Badoon, Leelanau Township. Trump won. Trump won the popular vote Trump won electoral college. So that's a mandate. I don't care what anybody says about preference to this county. But Trump is doing a lot of work. Trump is helping to get the Israeli hostages back. He's doing a lot of stuff fiscally to help out this country. So I don't care if somebody wants to complain about Republican Party. We lived 4 years under the Democrats, killing babies and doing all kinds of stuff. So I support Republican Party because it's working.
Amen. Any other public comment? No.
Amity, Casson Township. A majority of the people in this room today grew up going to the library on their bikes or their parents taking them to do a book report on Tom Sawyer. And when that book was gone, they had to go to Death of a Salesman or Red Badge of Courage or something from Shakespeare or Kurt Vonnegut. Sometimes their parents had to take them and they missed Gunsmoke or I Love Lucy. It was inconvenient for them, okay? Broadband now is available and teachers now have to have a program that checks out the book reports or the term papers they did on Jefferson for plagiarism and getting the stuff that they copied off the internet. Using the excuse that it's inconvenient for parents or kids need broadband because they have to stay home and can't get to the library is a poor excuse for spending other people's money. And I learned a long time ago, it stood for opium, OPM, other people's money. And using, the board has a lot to do with the county and providing something that individual households should be doing on their own. And so I concur with Jim White that you guys were spending too much money and shouldn't be involved with that sort of stuff at all. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Wiesner.
Bill Wiesner, Elmwood Township. And again, it's on the elections. And until we have one person, one ballot, one vote, one day, then we'll have to be concerned about fraud. So we're just expecting no fraud. And here, there, and everywhere, we see it happening. And so that's what the topic is about again. And this handout that I've given you is pretty much the same one as from last week's executive meeting. Folks can go up there and look in their notes for the meeting and find a handout very similar to this. And I just wanted to go over these charts. The first the 3 questions for clerks, all the 15 or so clerks in our county, especially the county clerk, are listed here. And the first one has to do with cast vote records. If you flip a coin 1,000 times, you should get about 50% heads, 50% tails. Should look something like this. And this is the flip, and it should be within these borders. That's using probability. But what we see with the Mesa pattern, Tina Peters in Mesa County, Colorado, we've seen heavily over and over strong Democratic vote, and then it comes just like a car cruise control up to a set point. It's way outside the expected standards, and that flips the votes. Here's what it should be, the normal vote, But here's what it was in the beginning because of the cast vote records being skewed by an algorithm. And the final vote then is less Republican to more Democrats. And if you look at the counties all over, it's not just one. Heavy Democrat up to a set point in the end. And that's what cast vote records show. So the question was, in Northport, I asked the county clerk how your Dominion contact at election source explains the unnatural graphs produced from the cast vote records. This is 80%, 168 202 counties they looked at in 10 states. And this just repeats over and over. The second question was about the back door, supposedly in our Dominion machines. This was asked of the chief operating officer and vice president, two top executives, by Mark Cook at election integrity presentation in August of this year, last year, Berry County, Michigan. And they were asked if Dominion voting system had a back door, and supposedly they said, yes, maybe there's more to the story, but we need to hear about that. And the third thing is, how do you explain the 2020 election for the Michigan Supreme Court candidates in both Antrim, where there was a 42% swing unexpected, and in it says Antrim twice, but it should be Leelanau for the second one, a 34% unexpected in Leelanau County. So those are the questions. I looked a little bit more, and for the 2008, because somebody mentioned, like with Obama, things changed drastically then. And so that could have changed drastically in 2020. Well, with the 2008 election in Leelanau County, the Democratic for president and the Supreme Court won by about 3% over the Republicans. In Grand Traverse County, it was just the opposite. The Republicans won for president and Supreme Court about 3% over the Democrats. Not that much of a change. The big change was in 2020, where it was totally unexpected swing. You can see those online. And so that is almost an impossible thing. So we keep talking about, we have paper ballots, but they're not working. On the back of this, it's looking at Arapahoe County, and it looks at a cast vote record, and it should look like this: 25% swing on this tax, but what it is, it's totally the same for both Republicans and Democrats. I'm out of time. Thank you. Please consider this and find out much more on my website, tcfamily.org, on the election thing on the top.
Any other public comment? Sure.
Josh Barman, Elmwood Township. Just speaking for the broadband, as a younger member of people here, broadband is a utility. It's necessary. You can't function in today's world without good broadband. I think we all lived through the iteration of nothing, dial-up, crap, what we have now. If you don't have access to good internet, you can't do your job from home. If you are sick or whatever else you need to do, there are just so many things that being prevented from the internet stops your ability to do. I would say that the county's prerogative is obviously to spend our money well, but to supply its constituents with the resources for success, which in this world is completely hand in hand with internet access. So completely support the initiative to get internet to our constituents, also completely support our money being well spent. I think like the transparency that was indicated with the docs that were given should be very helpful, because we're saying things like we're spending poorly or we're spending well. I think us actually knowing that information for sure would be very good for us assessing how successful you all are being. I think that's it.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other public comment? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Mickey Eater.
I live in Verticville, although I don't see that name on any map. So I've been thinking a lot. I've been attending these meetings for a couple of years. And it's very interesting how we used to believe that all politics is local. But a lot of the discussion that has gone on this evening is certainly local, but not all of it. And I want to reiterate what somebody said. I've been thinking a lot about the Constitution because there's a lot about it in the paper. And it starts out by saying, in order to make a more perfect union, it does not say, in order to make a more profitable union. And I encourage you all, as you start in these positions, to remember your responsibility is primarily local. We may spend money at times in order to benefit our neighbors. That's what I understand a more perfect union to be about. And I hope we don't forget that as we're concerned about. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure if we're concerned about spending or not, because there does not seem to be consensus in this room about whether the budgets are balanced or whether there's a tremendous amount of waste. And I worry that if politics are local and we can't agree on fundamental facts, then we're never going to be able to have an environment where we feel that we're part of a community and we trust each other. So I'm asking everyone on this board to remember not only what happens in this room, but to communicate with your constituents outside of it so that they can appreciate what the issues are and potentially help inform the decisions that you make so that they can benefit everybody. And I thank you all for your service.
Thank you. Any other public comment? All right. Oh, we got, oh, wow, I
Kathy Williams, Leelanau Township. I live north of Northport. What I was asking, I'm new to the whole county government thing. Although I moved up here in 2007 to live with my folks and assist them. And my mother's birthday is tomorrow. She'll be 99. And she keeps me on my toes. But I understand that this year's expenditure, budgeted expenses is around $17.5 million. And the expected revenue coming in is around 12.5 million. And when I was asking some commissioners about just some questions, and I was given that information, I'm thinking, that's a problem. Because I know I have to look at my budget every month. And so all I'm asking is, again, transparency seems to be the byword nowadays. I'm just asking that all of the commissioners be very transparent about what's happening. And it's very helpful, at least to me, and I think your constituents, if we get specific information about specific things that you're looking at and doing, and how that money is going to go out, and how the expected revenues coming in are going to help that. I just know that my mom and dad built their house in 1971, and the permit is still tacked in the garage. And I remember Dad saying to me, he spent $25 for that permit. My mom's grandson is going to be building on our property out there. And I just picked up a list today from planning or building safety. And it's like a whole page of permitting stuff that has to be done. I know times have changed and things need to change with it. I get that. As a nurse of over 50 years, there's been a lot of changes. But I'm just asking that you really seriously consider that, because I love this place. I've been coming up here. We've been coming up here as a family since 1960s. And I consider it my home. And I want to keep it just as wonderful and spectacular as it is, as we even move forward in changes. So I'd like you to consider, just keep that in consideration. The other thing I just want to publicly say is a thank you to the road commission, because I come from Clinton County, and I remember when I was still living in Clinton County and coming up to be with my folks, and then going back, I always knew when I hit Clinton County because the roads were terrible. But they do a spectacular job up here, and I just want to publicly say thank you. And I've heard others say that too. So my comment.
Thank you. Any other public comment? All right. We'll move on to commissioner comments. Commissioner comments?
I have one, because we've heard quite a few comments about the broadband project. And I think it's time for this board to hear to get a report on what we have accomplished. And I think we've accomplished a lot. We were a very underserved county. We identified 4,000 residences who did not have broadband. By August, we're going to have most of those covered except for the. It was a very deliberative process to come up with that plan. We found a company that was willing to invest in 75% of the cost of that project. And it was a nonpartisan, bipartisan vote to proceed with that. And I think it's so easy to be critical, and sometimes I leave here and I think nobody likes anything that we're doing. But there are some really good things happening, and I also think this is something to brag about. So I would just challenge all of us to try to find the silver lining in some of the issues that we all feel strongly about, because there's some really good stuff going on.
Any other commissioner comments?
I guess I would just like to say that the other company that people have said we should have gone with, I know that they did one particular road up in Leelanau Township, and I had people coming and they charged each person, each household paid like $22,000 or $2,500 or to get them to go in. And when people found out that we were having Point come in, they were coming to me saying, can we switch now? They go down every day. I will also suggest that the people in Cedar still waiting for someone, Cherry Capital might have that. They do have a little area there. Anyway, the lift committee did an incredible job on this. And they were so careful and so thorough. And we got an amazing deal. So thank you for your work. And yes, our object was always to serve all of you.
All right, any other commissioner comments? Not for on to approve of financials.
No transfers, just budget amendments tonight. Very simply, they're not too extensive. What we're doing is we're setting up line items for dollars that move from one year to the next, specifically the sheriff's donation line, the canine specific, the marine specific, animal control specific. We also have funds from the state of Michigan for education of our officers that it's a mandate to spend, so we carry unspent forward. And that's what the first budget amendment is. And, oh, I'm sorry, Clerk, I did not get you. Thank you. So budget number 25002 is to set up those line items specific to dollars that carry forward year to year, unspent.
I'll make a motion that we pass a budget amendment resolution number 25002.
All right, approved by Commissioner Algar. Discussion? Not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries 7-0.
And 25003 recognizes the receipt of revenue for Leelanau Christian Neighbors 911 Dispatch Console Project and the VFW. And it also sets up the unspent grant money that's still available in the grant fund for a few just line items. We can't not recognize those. They have to stay there until they're spent. So that sets that up. And then we had to rebuild the Leelanau Tower fund because it's a project that rolled into this year. And so we have to reestablish the revenue and the expenditure line items. And I also wanted to reflect the unspent money for heat pumps in the capital outlay fund. But we've got 2 heat pumps ordered that's going to spend that real quick. It's okay.
Doing that one.
I move we approve the resolution number 2503. Oh, 2503. Well, the olds are not there.
No, I think you said.
Oh. All right, so support.
Second.
Commissioner Robbins, discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Carried 6-1.
Claims and accounts.
Yep.
This is claims and accounts. If you'll make a motion to approve claims and accounts in the amount of $550,212.72.
Support. Right. Support by Commissioner Bunting, discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carried 7-0.
And then approve post audit. I don't have that number.
I have-
Do you have post
I
audit?
make a motion to approve post audit at $2,986,912.81.
Second.
Supported by Commissioner Robbins, discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you.
All right, we are adjourned.
Wow. You're gonna have to have a picture sheet there.
I got it.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, I got a bunch of stuff. I
gotta go home and get back.
That's right, you're leaving. I really appreciate it. I understand how much work went into it. But what I'm saying is that it's a little bit of extra. They have been saved. This was very. That's their.
Well, you know, but I mean, I'm listening to some of these guys prior to your.
Without having the availability.
Yeah.
I mean,
Can't help it.
honestly, to me, our pay for
I thought of it too late.
But I'm not. I quite was looking at my.
Well, it'd be nice to have. I looked at my.
Yeah, he owes me a cup of coffee.
And it's Dad always said.
Watch TV, are we?
I never watched myself.
No, I read the. But I really love the person. Sound is.
You know what, he's gonna see it.
Speed of 3.5. No, 3, yeah, over 3. Well, thanks for coming, John. Thanks, John. Appreciate it. I didn't know that. I had the over under that we be out at 9:15.
Well, when I first looked at the agenda, I thought. Oh, geez. Wow. And we have. And we're the 25.
I wanted to go talk to Mr.
Kathy, what is?
Hey, can I tell you something real quick? Sure.
Yeah, what is that?
I was supposed to talk, I was in the back.
Oh, were you really?
No. I came like 5 minutes after you guys must have. It's okay. So you talked about like the percent deal with that lot, right?
It's important that I understand what the.
So the county, we don't get 2% money unless someone comes to us and applies for it, right?
Right, you have to apply for that.
Well, okay, so like Leelanau Christian Acres, right?
No, ours is when we apply.
When they use your examples, you use all these other entities, like just like we do with the grand traffic. We just don't get the money automatically, no. So we can apply for like $3,000 for a grant for like equine therapy.
Right.
Because in my county, you have to partner with I think I never saw. So we can apply for $40,000, but once they're done with allocation of money, they might, we only have 5,000 to give, there's so much we want to spread around. You might not get the full money, right?
But they'll be only give you things that are. I mean, if you don't ask. That must be right behind you. If we ask for a dog truck, you know, the animal control truck, instead of that, I mean, that's something that we benefit the county here. You know, I mean, the same thing, or could we start doing it for all these 501c? We're giving it.
Hopefully the signatures will tell you where it's at.
That's voted, not voted on to give that. On top of it.
I just want to tell things, maybe the way you're saying it, like.
Maybe I'm not expressing it well.
You're not